Good evening. I'm going to now call us to order. This is the May 20th, 2026 meeting of Municipal Council. Madam Clerk, for the record of this meeting, Mayor Haxon is absent with notice, and as acting mayor, I'll be chairing tonight's meeting. First item on our agenda is declarations of interest. Are there any declaration of interest from Council? Seeing none, I'll move to our land acknowledgement statement. The town of East Gwillimbury recognizes and acknowledges the lands originally used and occupied by the First Peoples of the Williams Treaties, First Nations, and other Indigenous peoples, and on behalf of Council, I thank them for sharing this land. We also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as EG's closest First Nation community, and recognize the unique relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and we join them in these responsibilities. Item D on our agenda is deputations. I don't see any at this time, Madam Clerk. There are none. Item E is presentations, and also none at this time. Item F1 is a report of the Integrity Commissioner, a formal code of conduct complaints. There are 3 file numbers here, and it's an investigation report. In order to get this on the table, may I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Johns and Councillor Crone. Madam Clerk, I believe we have the Integrity Commissioner online. Ms. Craig, are you here this evening with us?
I am here virtually, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for being here this evening. Did you have any comments that you wanted to make regarding this report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, ordinarily I just give a brief overview. So if with your indulgence, I will do so again this evening. The report before you sets out my findings with respect to 3 formal complaints as you have set out. With respect to a named advisory committee member, the respondent in the report, who was a member of the council-appointed Heritage Advisory Committee. The complaints allege that the respondent engaged in conduct that was contrary to the code, using a pseudonym for a pseudonymous account to shield her identity while making comments about municipal matters. The report before you sets out a summary of the complaints. I won't go into that as you have the report before you. With respect to the process, the respondent was given notice of the first complaint on March 17th. She provided a response on March 19th. Was given notice of 2 additional complaints on March 23rd and replied on the 26th. The respondent was at all material times a town advisory committee appointed member of the Heritage Committee and pursuant to the Heritage Act and municipal policies. Conduct on social media may fall within the Code of Conduct purview. In fact, a 2025 decision by the court ruled that the role of the public official is not a mantle to be put on during council meetings and otherwise set aside when engaged in the community, but rather a mantle of public duty that is worn in everything a member of council or appointed member in this case does, including what they do and post on social media. The report states that this does not mean that committee members surrender all rights as private residents. It only means that where a town appointed member publicly engages in local municipal comments in a manner alleged to be abusive or intimidating, that the conduct is said to undermine public confidence. Conduct that may be tolerated in a purely private citizen may nonetheless be incompatible with the continued appointment to a municipal body. In her written response to the complaints, the respondent stated that she's first and foremost a resident of East Gwillimbury, an unpaid volunteer. The respondent states that she never suggested her personal opinions reflected official town positions, and she did not refer to her role on the Heritage Advisory Committee in connection with her online commentary. She further stated that the complaints were part of a targeted effort by complainants and associated individuals to discourage her from expressing her views. When looking at the elected or appointed member of council's use of a pseudonym, I looked to the City of Calgary's interpretation bulletin. It was helpful guidance for me in this matter. The code says in this particular bulletin, the code applies to all communications that a member makes on social media in connection with their expertise and exercise of their duties. This includes communications about council, their work as a member of council, and 2 other members of council or the business of the municipality. If a member uses social media for personal use, they have to use privacy settings, otherwise it is public. When I was looking at the charter analysis, I expressly stated that the respondent may assert her freedom of expression. While it was not expressly relied upon in the respondent's reply, every member of council and every appointed member has a right to express their opinion on municipal matters. Here, the respondent's speech was not the type that lies at the heart of values underlying freedom of expression. She was not engaged in genuine political debate when advancing false narratives. And even if Section 2B of the Charter is engaged, courts have repeatedly held that the Code of Conduct may provide a reasonable limit to expressive activities of municipal officials. In this case, the Heritage Advisory Committee makes recommendations to Council on all matters relating to the conservation of buildings of historic or architectural value. The HAC holds monthly meetings open to the public and works with planning staff on matters related to the Ontario Heritage Act. The Act requires that Council consult with HAC on certain matters. Accordingly, it's important to ensure that members of the public have confidence that they can attend these meetings, make deputations, and that members of HAC will treat others respectfully and in accordance with the code. One of the purposes of the code is to ensure that the public, staff, volunteers, members of council are treated with dignity and to promote public trust in the town. In circumstances of this case, this purpose outweighs any limits to the respondent's freedom of expression. The respondent was free to express her opinions on matters of political debate and to participate on social media, but she was required to do so within the confines of the code. The screenshots and complainants supporting documentation demonstrated, I found, a pattern of commentary that went beyond vigorous debate. Even in the context of contentious civic debate, and that happens often, those statements are, and I found them to be disrespectful and intimidating. The code does not prohibit disagreement or criticism or political commentary. It does, however, require that to be with respect. The complaint allegations of the respondent's conduct running afoul of the code is not cured by recasting her remarks as her opinion. While opinions may be strongly stated, a committee member does not treat the public with honesty, dignity, and respect when leveling speculative and damaging accusations. I found that there was a breach of Section 9.2. I did not find that there was a breach of 9.4 or 15.1 or 15.3. In conclusion, I accept that the respondent considered and considers herself a committed resident with strong views about her community, and she may genuinely have wished to maintain some distinction between her private and her volunteer roles. However, engaging in hostile social media discourse with the very individuals who may come before the committee for which she is appointed to make recommendations to council ran afoul of the code. On April 28th, I provided the respondent with a draft complaint investigation report with my findings, as I do whenever I conclude an investigation. On the 29th, the respondent provided a response to the draft and advised that she would be resigning. On April 29th, the respondent tendered her resignation to council by email. In accordance with Section 30.2 of the code, where a complaint is sustained and the Integrity Commissioner has concluded her investigation, she shall report the findings to council, and that is what I'm doing with the report before you. I sustained the complaint against the former member. I'm reporting to council. In my view, a member of council, local board, advisory committee member cannot avoid accountability by resigning from an elected or appointed office after learning of adverse findings in an Integrity Commissioner's report. To adhere to the accountability and transparency function of my office, I provide you with this report. I did not make recommendations of penalty or remedial action. While the Code of Conduct and the Municipal Act grant me the authority to make recommendations, this individual is a volunteer and has resigned, and I make no such recommendations. In the circumstances of this case, I found that I decided to not disclose the identity of the respondent. In two significant reports of Integrity Commissioners, one in Ottawa and one in Toronto, both Integrity Commissioners chose to exercise their discretion to not disclose the names of former BIA or committee members. In her May 2016 report, the former IC of Toronto entitled her report Investigation Report Regarding the Conduct of a Former Member, and it did not disclose the respondent's name or identity. In a 2023 report of the City of Ottawa, Commissioner Shepherd entitled her report, Manotick BIA Board of Management Report, and did not disclose the name of the respondents. I have also exercised my discretion similarly in this case. Also, as a Municipal Integrity Commissioner, I'm bound by confidentiality under Section 223.5. And in preparing this report, I considered subsection 223.62 of the Act, which provides that I can disclose in the report such matters as the commissioners, in the commissioner's opinion, I believe are necessary for council to make a determination. The available sanctions under the Act were not used. I do not believe that there is a need for recommended sanctions, as the member has resigned. I submit this report to council in full exercise of my duties to report after an investigation is completed. And it's very important to send a message that an individual who has the entitlement of being appointed to serve their municipality and make recommendations to their leaders on council must have the trust of the public. And where this individual has used this opportunity to use a synonym to attack the very individuals and a sitting councilor who may be involved in some of the matters for which they will make recommendations, I found was contrary to the code of conduct. I submit this report for your consideration, receipt of the findings, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Craig, for that fulsome overview and for the work that you've conducted here on behalf of the community. Members of council, at this point, our Integrity Commissioner has provided an overview. We are simply here to be receiving this report. I would ask that you keep your comments and questions relevant to the report content. So we have a motion here. Councillor Leahy, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Chair. After reading and reflecting on the conclusions of the Integrity Commissioner's report, I decided to waive my right as a complainant in the Integrity Commissioner's report of confidentiality and confirm, in the spirit of transparency, my identity as complainant number 2. In my following comments, I would like it to be noted that I'm respecting confidentiality of the identity of the respondent since her resignation from the Heritage Advisory Committee, which took effect on April 29th, 2026. I have the following comments that I would like to share with everyone. They are my own comments, as I do not speak on behalf of the other complainants. I also intend to exercise my right as a councillor in my capacity as a publicly elected representative of East Gwillimbury to speak to the false accusations investigated in the Integrity Commissioner's report, as well as my right to participate in the discussion and the vote on the report. And I would like at this time to ask the clerk to have a recorded vote when it comes to time to vote. Although I was able to, I chose not to respond to the respondents' false accusations on social media made under an alias while she served on a town-appointed committee, providing advice to the body of council as a whole, including myself, attacking my reputation and character both as a councillor and as an individual. As a practice over the past 3.5 years, I choose to repeatedly not engage with the negativity that is taking place on social media. As an elected official, however, I do commonly accept, as it is in our job, to be held to a higher degree of tolerance of public criticism. And I do believe that members of the community, volunteers, and others have the right to criticize us in our roles as members of council. However, in this circumstance, there were 2 important differences. First, that an alias was used, and second, that an individual using the alias was serving on a council-appointed town committee. It is a privilege to serve as a volunteer at the town of East Gwillimbury. Previous attacks on other members of council by residents or taxpayers who have the right to provide feedback, even if it is negative, were done using their real names and in person often, and to my knowledge, none were current members of appointed advisory committees. That is where the crux of this complaint stemmed from. The resignation of the member, and I'm quoting her own words in the Integrity Commissioner's report on page 16, states, and I quote, "was not an admission of having maligned anyone, but rather to avoid having council decide on the Integrity Commissioner's recommendations, which could affect their chances of re-election. Additionally, I would rather commit my personal time to my other volunteer activities, which I find more rewarding," unquote. It is disappointing to me that the individual continued to refuse to acknowledge the adverse findings of the Integrity Commissioner. While I give credit to the respondent for admitting that she used a fake identity, and also that she technically apologized on social media by saying that she withdrew her false accusations against me, unfortunately, her credibility was undermined by making further claims to deflect accountability, that in her response to the Integrity Commissioner, it was done on the advice of a staff member, and that as well as incorrect information that she found on through AI on social media. So, which was disproven by screenshots of a simple search of my name, which indicated, in fact, the contrary to her claims. And in fact, the former member of the Heritage Advisory Committee did make multiple public comments during public statutory meetings using her real name while serving on the Heritage Advisory Committee. So I have 3 questions which I would like to address to the appropriate staff member or the Integrity Commissioner, whoever is able to answer my questions, but I will save those for the end. To conclude, I would suggest that it is a privilege to serve on a town-appointed committee as a volunteer, and that if something cannot be said using your real name, then the chances are that it would probably better be not shared publicly on social media platforms. When individuals have no sound argument to support their opinions, they should not resort to calling others names and spreading misinformation. It would save the taxpayers the cost of the Integrity Commissioner investigations and the time of council members and staff to work on business matters for the municipality where our effort and money is supposed to be focused. I regard the investigation and the report results, despite the recommendation that there be no consequences because the individual is no longer a member of an advisory committee, as positive. I'm looking upon this experience because I hope that it will serve as an opportunity to turn the page on the negativity in the public forum of elected officials. I'm not attempting...
Councillor, you're approaching 5 minutes. Could
Yes.
you please wrap up?
Thank you. I'm not attempting in any way to curtail or limit feedback that is negative in the opinions of taxpayers, but rather to encourage everyone that the credibility and the trust of all levels of government, including the municipal one and advisory committees, is important to the health of our democracy, and significant work needs to be done to improve and rebuild public trust in East Gwillimbury. I am mindful tonight that it's an exciting night tonight that we're going to be discussing developments in our community.
Councillor, you have exceeded 5 minutes. Could you please wrap up? I've asked you to stop at 5 minutes, and I'm reminding you again. Procedural bylaw says that a member of council can speak for 5 minutes. You have now been speaking for over 5 minutes. Please
Was the
conclude your
timer
remarks.
started for me? The timer was not started. Well, we have a timer in the council chambers. That's the timer we should
I
be
no
using
longer
if you want to
recognize
time.
you. If you are finished speaking, then I will turn the chair over. I will turn the microphone over to someone else who would like to speak.
I
If you
have
had a-
not finished speaking yet. Thank you
You've
very
had
much.
more than 5 minutes, and you are in exceedance of the provision of our procedural bylaw, and I would like you to stop speaking, please.
I would like to finish. I have 3 more sentences I would like to finish.
Members of committee, members of council, would you like to? Okay,
Motion
please
to
go
approve.
ahead. Motion to approve. All those in favor? Motion carries. Continue. 3 sentences, Councillor Leahy.
I intend to continue doing my job, serving the residents of East Gwillimbury in the professional manner in which I have conducted myself to date, with the understanding that, however, while I continue to receive feedback, whether they're positive or negative feedback, I intend to hold everyone to account for a standard of respect, because at the end of the day, my reputation is of immeasurable value to me. I would like to thank the Integrity Commissioner for investigating in an unbiased manner, and I will continue to execute my job with grit, grace, and gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leahy. Members of council, are there any further comments or questions on this matter? Councillor Johns, go ahead, please.
I have a comment, but I was just wondering, using my 5 minutes, if, is there questions that wanted to be asked that are not answered through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor? If I
Yes.
would yield my time for you to ask the questions?
Thank you very much. If that is acceptable to the acting
You
mayor.
said you had 3 questions. Go ahead, please.
In the past 2 presentations of the Integrity Commissioner reports to council, the town hired external legal counsel for council members as a resource. This was not provided to myself or council on this occasion. What is the reason that this decision was not made for today to provide external legal counsel?
Ms. Ingram, would you be in a position to answer that, please?
Yes, through you, Acting Mayor. The decision to hire external counsel, Councillor Leahy, is made on a case-by-case basis. It's not carte blanche every time the Integrity Commissioner brings a report to hire external counsel. Unfortunately, you have misinterpreted what was done in the past as providing you with specific advice from external counsel. That's not exactly the way it happens. In each particular case, I, as the town solicitor, have to determine whether or not there is a reason to hire external counsel. Every time the Integrity Commissioner speaks on a matter, we determine it at that time. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Yes, it does. That was question number 1. Question number 2, is harassment of anyone through cyberbullying captured by the Code of Conduct?
Through the chair to Councillor Leahy, it's my understanding, I'm not an expert, I'll have to state that for the record, but it's my understanding that cyberbullying doesn't have one sort of a consistent application and definition. I believe that it's used in criminal harassment, it's used in school boards, it's used in workplaces. The Code of Conduct speaks very generally about harassment under section, I believe, 15. And if there is an allegation of cyberbullying, I would make a determination as to whether I had authority and jurisdiction to review. And if I did, I would make findings. If your question is, did I do so in this report before council? I did not address cyberbullying. I addressed, just be clear, section 15, section 15.2 and 15.4 of the code, and section 14 of the code, which deals with traditional media and social media communications. I did not review cyberbullying.
Thank you very much. My third and last question. What is the bylaw procedure regarding the resignation of any member of a town-appointed committee? And would you please share with the public if this procedure has been followed and when the resignation took effect?
Ms. Ingram, go ahead, please.
Thank you, and through you, Acting Mayor. The process I will defer to the clerk on, but in terms of your second question, Councillor Leahy, can you repeat that so the public can hear the second part of your question?
Your microphone, thank you.
Would you please share with the public if this procedure has been followed and when the resignation took effect?
Thank you for clarifying that for the members of the public. The resignation takes effect on the date that it's actually tendered. I believe the Integrity Commissioner indicated that the respondent tendered her resignation on April 29, 2026, by tendering it through an email to council. That is the effective date of her resignation. And in terms of the process, I will refer the matter over to the clerk, who's best able to address your procedural question. Thank you.
Madam Chair, as this area is not under legislative services, I'm going to reach out to General Manager Gandhi to provide that.
Ms. Gandhi.
Through you, Madam Chair. So the process is that once the resignation is received, it is received into the mayor and council office. The individual within the mayor and council office then drafts a memo that goes into closed session, and those messages or those that memo is brought forth typically at the first closed session meeting of the council meeting. So in this particular case, the time would have been too restricted to have that memo placed on the first agenda in May.
Thank you.
For clarification, did you mean June? It will,
For clarification, the April 29th resignation date would have been too short of a period of time to have it effectively put on the first meeting in May. So yes, it would go into the first meeting of June.
Which is when we deal with those issues in closed session.
We deal with them collectively. So if there's a number of resignations or any other matters pertaining to committees of council, they're all dealt with at the same time.
Thank you.
thank you very much for the answers to my questions. And I would like to make one further comment. I don't believe I've used up the 5 minutes that was offered to me by Councillor Johns. The silence of my colleagues speaks volumes. And I was hoping that tonight would be the beginning of a more positive dynamic on council. So I want to assure the residents and the members who are in the council chambers tonight that I'm looking forward to discussing the future of East Gwillimbury and all of the exciting plans and projects that you have been working so hard on for so long. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions at this time? Councillor Carruthers and then Councillor Crone.
Councillor Leahy, I'm sorry for what you've gone through. You mentioned the silence of your colleagues. We hadn't been given an opportunity to speak yet, so we didn't want to speak over top of you. I've experienced what you've experienced, maybe not from a member of a committee, so I know what it feels like, and I think you're incredibly brave to step forward and say what you've said tonight. And I do hope that we turn a page and that there's a more respectful dialogue. You do have my support. No one should be treated that way. Thank you.
Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Councillor Leahy. I too am sorry for what you've gone through. You don't deserve it. I think many of us here on this council table have been victims of nastiness. You're not alone. Yours was particularly bad, I agree. And it's unfortunate because this bad behavior keeps other good people away. So I hope the good people stick it out and others run for council, because we need good people here. But we all have to do better in making sure that we've got a better environment in which people are treated with respect. They can share their thoughts, but in a respectful way. We can disagree without being disagreeable. So again, I'm sorry. Thank you.
I think I share my colleagues' feelings about this, that public discourse is becoming increasingly angry and personal and toxic. And I think everybody at this table has struggled with that, and it's truly unfortunate. I believe the Integrity Commissioner's word was that this was beyond vigorous debate. And I think that's the crux of this issue here. And whether it's, I guess that's the best thing I can say at this point, is that it's truly unfortunate, and it's a disappointment that we have to handle at this time. So I have a motion from Councillor Johns and Councillor Crone to receive. I notice that you've just put your microphone on. Councillor Johns, anything further at this time?
Yeah, I was just wondering if I could use some of my time.
Go ahead,
if
yeah.
it wasn't all used. I just, I think politics is brutal, and government is what we're here for from a public service standpoint. And, you know, Councillor Crone, your comment about disagreeing without being disagreeable, I wholly agree with that. And the fact that I'm self-reflecting here too, because there are a pile of alias accounts already being loaded and following my social media. People with 1 and 2 and 3 people. And I can see that this has become a new norm and it's acceptable, but it is becoming acceptable. And that's to Councillor Carruthers' point, for Councillor Leahy to share what she has shared is extremely important. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that we can't become immune to think that that type of conduct is acceptable. So thank you, Councillor Leahy, for sharing.
Through you, Madam Chair, I requested a recorded vote.
Yep. I also sent a box of Kleenex down that way. Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Madam Clerk, would you care to take the recorded vote, please?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Councillor Leahy has requested for a recorded vote. Councillor Leahy, how do you vote?
Yes, to receive the Integrity Commissioner's report.
Thank you. Councillor Carruthers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Roy Clemente, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Crone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Foster, how do you vote? Yes. Mayor Haxton is absent with notice. Councillor Johns, how do you vote?
Yes.
Through you, Madam Chair, that motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you, Ms. Craig, for being here this evening. That is unfortunately the end of F1, or fortunately, I'm not sure which. The next item on our agenda is adoption of minutes. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the minutes. Oh, thank you. I skipped a spot. Committee recommendations. My apologies. I'll use the computer and not the paper. I think we're all a little bit emotional right now. Okay, so to adopt the committee recommendation from the meeting held on May 5th, 2026, moved by Councillor Carruthers and Councillor Crone. Any comments or questions on any of those? All those in favor? And that motion carries. Madam Clerk, we have a committee of the whole recommendations from the meeting held earlier today. Some of those items were time sensitive, so I'm wondering if you could put those on the screen for us, please.
Through you, Madam Chair, they are noted as item G2 on the screen before you. There are a total of 5 recommendations for Council's consideration.
Okay, so just because they're somewhat new to us and were not published earlier, I was just going to read them out quickly. Be it resolved that Committee of the Whole adopt recommendations from the meeting as follows. That Development Services Planning Branch Report DS 2026-12 dated May 20th entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment for 363 Leslie Street, RCG Green Lane Northwest GP Inc. be received, and that council support in principle the approval of the zoning bylaw amendment included as Appendix 4 of the report to rezone the lands from rural to site-specific prestige employment and site-specific, two different zones of site-specific prestige employment, and that council refer the item to the June 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting, and that council direct staff to reduce the height restriction to 15.25 meters. That's one, and that the recommendations be ratified at this evening's meeting. Then the other one is that the Parks, Recreation and Culture Report, PRC 2026-01, entitled the 2026 Active Transportation and Trails Plan Network Update be received, that we adopt it in principle, and that we approve a 60-day public comment period commencing on May 21st, 2026, and direct staff to consider comments during this review period for any final changes, and that we ratify this at the evening meeting tonight. And thirdly, that that council requests staff prepare a resolution regarding safety at the intersection of Leslie Street and Doane Road, and that this recommendation be ratified at the meeting. Now, I think that was slightly different than what we had intended. Madam Clerk, there was supposed to have been a resolution for us to address the immediate safety concern at Doane Road regarding the safety barrier.
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe there were two.
Okay.
This was the one that required same-day ratification. I believe the other one was dealt with separately, but you do have the mechanism. If you would like to introduce amendments to that, you can do that, certainly.
Let's go back and do the first ones that I've already read out. So 1, 2, and 3 as presented. Any comments or questions? May I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Crone and seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. The next item was, I believe it was Jeffrey Crescent. Yes, that we, be it resolved that Legal and Legislative Services Report dated May 20th entitled Stop Up, Close, Declare Surplus and Sale of Jeffrey Crescent be received, that we enact the bylaw attached as Appendix 4 to the report authorizing the following: the stop up and closing of the portion of Jeffrey Crescent south of Doane Road to Leslie Street legally described in Appendix 1, and that the portion of Jeffrey Crescent legally described in Appendix 2 be formally declared surplus to the needs of the town of East Gwillimbury to facilitate the sale to ATC Cap Investments Limited in accordance with council's prior direction, and that the recommendations be ratified at the meeting this evening. Number 5, that our council meeting schedule be revised as follows: June 2nd, revised start time, and June 23rd, revised start time to the Committee of the Whole and council meetings. May I have a mover and a seconder for those two? Moved by Councillor Carruthers and seconded by Councillor Leahy. Thank you. All those in favor? That motion carries. And then, Madam Clerk, did we have another? Or is it the end of what you have prepared?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's the end of what has been prepared.
Members of council, if I recall correctly, and my memory may be faulty, we had discussed having an urgent resolution on the table for the safety barrier at Doane Road and Leslie Street following that tragic collision. So would someone care to put that on the table? Okay, so I've got a moved by Councillor Carruthers and seconded by Councillor Johns. That, Madam Clerk?
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't believe we have a resolution ready, as the final commentary was that it would be coming forward in June 2nd, and I believe the CAO has some additional comments.
Mr. Valchich.
Madam Chair, sorry if there was any confusion, but it was our understanding that the request was to bring back a proposed resolution at the next meeting, meaning 2 weeks from now. But I want to advise council that despite that, as of late this afternoon, I've been speaking to Mr. Brake, and in fact, staff have already started to make inquiry with regional staff. So you can certainly pass a resolution, but I want to let you know that we're not waiting to pursue conversations and try and push that, but it was our understanding that you wanted a resolution back in 2 weeks from now. That's why we don't have one up on the
I'm very
screen for
sorry
you.
if we were not clear. Councillor Carruthers, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we got it backwards, that the safety concerns at the intersection were to come back in June. And the fact that there's no barrier there and a steep hill is of immediate concern. So I understand staff have been talking to the region, but I've been asking staff to talk to the region for 3.5 weeks now about this. And since it hasn't been resolved in 3.5 weeks, and there's traffic cones are the only barrier between the road and a steep downfall, we can't wait another 2 weeks to bring this forward. This needs to be ratified tonight.
Mr. Velchich.
Absolutely not a problem, Madam Chair. As I say, we understood it to be a little different than that, but we can certainly put a resolution up that would request that the region of York be requested to expedite repairs to roadside infrastructure, specifically the guardrails, to ensure expediting necessary public safety measures.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Velchich. So, Madam Clerk, while Mr. Velchich was talking, I was also scribbling that council respectfully request the Regent urgently prioritize repairs to the roadside infrastructure at Leslie Street and Doan. Members of council, you've heard the intent of the motion. Any comments or questions on that? All those in favor? Oh, I need a mover and a seconder. That's why I've got the clerk here. It was already moved? Yes, it was moved by Councillor Carruthers and Councillor Johns.
Through you, Madam Chair, just for clarity. So the motion that was before council was to prepare a resolution for safety barrier. This is in addition to that, because that is what we had captured in terms of the content of conversation at the time that you wanted to introduce the item. So that was the motion we were documenting.
So the motion that you brought to us related to the intersection as a whole, and that is traffic standards, warrants being met for signalization, split intersection, all of those things that we would like the region, there's supposed to be upgrades to the region, to that intersection that are slated in the capital, the region's capital projects for, I think it was 2035. And we would like to see those moved forward. And we would like further investigation done, even in the meantime, to make that intersection safer. So that, I think, is what we covered already with CWC and ratifying. This second resolution relates simply to the metal barrier that was damaged during a collision that has not been replaced, and there's a steep hill, and as Councillor Carruthers pointed out earlier, there's pylons that aren't going to help anything.
Madam Chair, I can try and take a stab at saying what I think I said before, if you'd like to try and get it. Or do you have the resolution?
I think we have it. Okay, we have it,
Yeah.
and I was just about to call a vote, because I had a mover and a seconder, and everyone here at the table understood, so I think we're good to go, correct? Awesome. All those in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. Thanks for everybody's patience on this one. Okay, so we've adopted the Committee of the Whole recommendations from our meeting held earlier today, and we're now on adoption of minutes. May I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes from the Committee of the Whole meeting from May 5th and for the council meeting held on May 5th? Councillor Johns and Councillor Foster, all those in favor? That motion carries. I think this is the part that everybody is here for, statutory public meeting.
Through you, Madam
Yes.
Acting Mayor, I would like to request a 5-minute recess,
Yes.
please. I believe we need a reset in this council chambers.
I agree, Councillor Leahy. It is 6:44. 6:45, we're going to come back in 5 minutes at 6:50. Thank you very much. We are now at item I1, which is a statutory public meeting. It is a zoning bylaw amendment application, a draft plan of subdivision and community design plan, which is for East Gwillimbury Limited and GEVLP, which is also known as Green Earth Village. This is a public meeting which are under files ZBA 26.01, 19T-2006-001, and CDP 2502. Procedural comments by me as the chair. Members of the public, this portion of the council meeting is a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act. The purpose of this meeting is to inform and obtain public input on the planning application received by the town prior to a full technical analysis being conducted by staff. No decision to approve or refuse the application will be made here tonight. Following the applicant's presentation, members of the public will be invited to offer their comments respecting the proposal. Submissions can also be made in writing to planning@eastgwillimbury.ca. If you plan to speak at this meeting or you wish to be notified of any future council meetings concerning this application, please complete a form located at the back, at the desk at the back of the council chambers. If you want to just give a little wave. There we go. Thank you. And so I will now ask the General Manager of Development Services to introduce the application. Ms. Wimvakas, please go ahead.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Just want to set the stage a little bit. I'll just give a little overview, and then we have a presentation by the applicant who will speak to the proposals in greater detail. So the lands affected are located north of Queensville, side road between the second concession and Leslie Street, south of the proposed bypass, Bradford bypass. The applications were deemed complete in April of this year. The applicant's proposing to advance the applications in 2 phases. The zoning bylaw is for phases 1 and 2, and that's what we're here to listen and get feedback on tonight. And the draft plan submission is for phase 1 only. We also have a community design plan, which covers both the Green Earth Village lands and a broader area of the lands that are before us also. I wanted to put some of the lands in context because I think it's really difficult when you're looking at paper and trying to decipher what does this really mean. So just to give a little bit of context to the size and scale of the development, the community design plan covers approximately 562 acres of land. And if you want to put that in context a little bit, I always ask people who's been to Canada's Wonderland. Canada's Wonderland encompasses 330 acres. So you can see this is a much bigger area of land. The draft plan of subdivision, which is before us for approval, covers 108 hectares, which is the equivalent basically to Bruce's Mill for anyone who's been to Bruce's Mill. So I think you get the impression. This is a very large scale area that's affected, which also means development will not happen overnight. The applications that are before us are proposing mixed-use residential, comprised of, at this point in time, 1,743 residential units. That will be developed in low, medium, and higher scale density developments. We also have the plan shows parks and schools, institutional for the hospital, along with a long-term care facility that is also intended to be built over time. The town's previously expressed support for this development and has indicated that it will be providing servicing towards this development to help it make it a reality. Now, without saying much further, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. There, you're being hidden by the podium, Mr. David Mackay, who's going to go into greater detail in the proposal.
Welcome, Mr. Mackay. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the committee. David Mackay, registered professional planner with MHBC, representing Green Earth Village, which consists of Signature Communities and Royal Park Homes. If the clerk can put up my presentation slides, that'd be great. And I'll try, well, I will repeat a number of things that Ms. Wimvakas has said, but as we go through this proposal. This proposal has been in the works for approximately 17 years. That's how long development takes in Ontario. From bare land to bring this into the urban boundary, which was done by the region in 2022, our client has been working with the town and the region and other stakeholders throughout that process to bring forward this vision. And will continue to do so over the next number of years. As Ms. Van Vaca said, this is a large project and will take probably a decade or more to fully build out. Next slide. So as Ms. Van Vaca said, it's a little bit hard to read on this scale, but the community design plan is approximately 224 hectares of land. The rezoning application, which encompasses phases 1 and 2 of the subdivision, is just under 175 hectares of land, and the phase 1 subdivision is outlined in the orange color, is 108 hectares. Next slide. As council is aware, the town is updating its official plan to implement the region's plan and their urban boundaries. That process has been going on for quite some time. That there was an original adoption that went up to the province, and it's been sent back for further review and comment, and is to be completed shortly. We have been working diligently with staff to implement the vision that we prepared through the community design plan, as well as the rapidly changing plans that we've been working on, primarily the announcement of the hospital on this site. So we've been working with them, working with the White Belt Landowners Group to bring forward and implement that official plan policies, and we're looking forward to working with staff to finalize that component. Next slide. I won't go through all of these, but as council is aware and the public will see, there are a number of studies that go into this type of development. Lots of bedtime reading for everyone, but ranging from environmental studies, traffic studies, servicing, urban design, and the like. So a full host of studies that have been prepared are being reviewed by the town, as well as various agencies, including Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority and the region, for example, as well as the Ministry of Transportation. Next slide. So as part of the community design plan, that process started off last June, in which we prepared an initial plan. Maybe we'll go to the next slide, which shows that June plan. And at the time, we were looking at a variety of mixed-use areas, which are the purple, a number of residential areas, which are the yellow and brown on this map, as well as at the north end, which is within the community design plan, but owned by the Ministry of Transportation against the Bradford bypass for prestige employment uses. So that was the plan at the time back in June. We had done a lot of the technical work to refine the environmental features, refine the road network, and we're continuing to do that through the process. So as we advance to the next slide, we have introduced more mixed use to provide for flexibility to meet market demands, given the changes in the housing market these days. We need that flexibility to respond to different types of housing product that is required. We've also, and the major change here is introducing 50 acres for the hospital site, and that's the light blue against Leslie Street. In addition, we have identified a long-term care facility, which our client has a license for this area of East Gwillimbury, and we are looking at a variety of other uses, as Ms. Vacas has mentioned, in terms of low, medium, and higher density forms of residential development to provide for that mix of housing, to provide for attainability and affordability over time, and for a choice of housing product for a variety of residents. So we are continuing to work through this. We are pretty much, as I said, the major elements, the general road network in terms of the access points on Queensville, Second Concession, and Leslie are pretty much fixed. We are working through the internal road network with staff, as well as matters dealing with stormwater management, school sites, park design, and the like, as we move through the process. And that is an ongoing process that will evolve and continue through the draft plan of subdivision. So in terms of their zoning application, next slide, This was filed in February of this year. We wanted to advance this, knowing that if the hospital were to choose this site, that they wanted to move quickly. So we wanted to advance that, knowing that through the process we could modify it if they chose to go elsewhere. Thankfully, they decided to come here. So the proposal, as if we go to the next slide, originally we had proposed a very detailed map that's in the staff report dealing with various categories of zoning. As we've worked through since February with staff, we've modified that to do a more broader-based mixed-use zone that allows for a variety of uses in conformity with the official plan. Again, to allow that flexibility to occur, so we're not pinned down to, you know, as we move parks around, as we move stormwater management facilities around, other pieces, that can flow as we develop and finalize the draft plan of subdivision. But all of the controls that are normally within the bylaw are there. The only provision I would say that is different is that we have worked with South Lake Hospital in terms of what they believe would be their requirements and have introduced a number of specific elements dealing with types of uses that are associated with the hospital, you know, such as hospice, such as research and development, and the like, that it really facilitates their campus in the future. So that's being incorporated, and that's fixed at that northern eastern component of the site. The rest of it, again, is very much mixed use, and then with including obviously commercial permissions, retail, office, other servicing provisions of the that will service the residents of this future lands. So in conclusion, I'm just going to end it there because I know there's probably lots of questions I'd want to hear from the public. We are here to work with staff, as we have done, work with council, and to listen to the residents and respond to concerns and comments they may have, and work through the process to bring Green Earth Village to fruition, including the hospital. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may initially have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mackay. I usually open the floor up to members of the public first and then sort of go into council if that's okay with the room, as I recall. So at this point, the next step in the process would
Thank
be
you.
if there are any members of the public who would like to speak. Madam Clerk, do we have any people who have registered to speak?
Through you, Madam Chair, I have just been advised that we do have one registered speaker for this particular file, and that is Eric Lee.
No question now, right? I wait until a little more.
Okay. So Mr. Lee has said that he doesn't have any questions, and he's going to wait till there's a little bit more information, and that would be that. Is there any other?
Through you, Madam Chair, at this time, we do not have any pre-registered candidates.
Okay. There's a lot of information to absorb here. Members of the public who have heard the presentation, would you like to come forward and let council know what you think? Please come forward. And then when you're finished, you can just go to the back and speak. Nice shirt, by the way.
Here?
Yes.
My name's Diane Priest. I live at 20716 Leslie. I notice our current subdivision has no bungalows for older people that want to downsize. And also the traffic on Leslie is a nightmare when the 404 has fatalities, accidents between Keswick and Queensville Side Road. It's bumper to bumper. I prefer not to have an on and off ramp at Leslie Street if it can be helped because of that incline just coming off over the cemetery. It is pretty bad in the winter. Cars are constantly losing control and everything else, and there's a lot of accidents. And like I said, there's no bungalows for older people that want to downsize or want to move to the community. And that's all I have to say, because everything's townhouses, semis, row housing, which I've seen some with drywall walls, not going above the ceilings when there's massive fires. They go right through everywhere. And that's the only thing I'd like to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay. I've got someone else coming to the microphone, so if you want to, while he's speaking, no, it's okay. You can actually go and sign in at the back, and then when he's finished, you guys can switch spots. Good evening, welcome.
Hi, Dave Blythe. I just wanted to know how much more information we're going to get on this, because I read through the application. We're talking about 11 to 16-story apartment buildings. We're talking about stacked rows of townhomes and whatnot, and we're getting very vague information right now. And the hospital is how many years away? So is this development that's being proposed, the housing that's going to come first, and the hospital may come at a later date, and the infrastructure is going to be going for the housing? Because it just seems very vague information for such a large development to be coming forward. So just wondering when those answers are going to come up. That's all.
Ms. Vivakis, would you be in a position to answer that at this time, or is this something that we can get back to Mr. Blythe about?
A little bit of both. In terms of more information forthcoming, we will be having a further report coming later before the summer recess. In that report, it will be far more fulsome. The purpose, and I understand the concern that you feel there isn't a lot of information. Purpose of the statutory meeting is really to gather information and commentary so that we can go back and work with the applicant on anything that collectively we feel may need to be addressed. But additional information comes in the final recommendation report. But staff is always happy to answer any questions that any member of the public has. In fact, we have our, if I can ask him to put his hand up, we have our manager, Matt Doust, who is responsible for the Green Earth Village application. And I would ask that people direct any queries to him if you have questions right now.
Thank you. And then we had someone else who would like to speak. Come on forward, please.
My name's Jacqueline Buchanan, and I'm a resident of Queensville, and I live on Balmoral. And I just have a concern about the lower portion of my property. It's always wet. It takes a long time to dry out, and I have concerns about things being how close they will be to my property line, and how that's going to affect potential flooding. And also, I have a question about the lake, the small lake that still exists. Is that staying, or is it going to go? That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Buchanan. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward? Go ahead, yes.
Hi, I'm Gordon Faraday. My family owns Queensville Sod. We're right at the end of second concession. There's a canal that runs down to Lake Simcoe. It handles like a lot of water, and since the developments have started, like our farms are flooding out like basically every single year. So it's all Lake Simcoe conservation. So I was just hoping that we could maybe look into that to maybe get those canals cleaned out.
Thank you. And if I could just ask you to go to the back of the room and sign in so we can get your contact information, please. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Please come forward. No, you can come here first and then sign in afterwards because the clerk is busy right now. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. My name's Erin. I also live on Balmoral Heights. I just have a question about the point of this. Is this just to be told what's going to happen, or will there be any input from the public or questions answered. I know things are coming, but is this just for us to be told the imminent development is coming?
Ms. Backus, would you like to take that?
Yes, I would. No, first of all, just to be very clear, the purpose of tonight is to hear from the public. That doesn't mean that staff necessarily agrees with everything everybody will say. I will be very candid about that. But it also means that council doesn't necessarily take everything that staff has to say. So it's an iterative process in part, but valid concerns and issues we want to hear, as does the applicant, genuinely, because they want to be here for the long haul. Staff are going to be here, so part of our job is building trust and confidence that you're going to get the answers you want to hear, whether you like the answers or not. And sometimes we can't address some of the concerns. I've been in meetings where people ask us to deal with something that's not a planning matter, so we can't deal with it. But no, the meeting is genuine, and I wanted to add, just listening to the gentleman who said there isn't a lot of information available. One of the things that we're starting on this application, twofold, because it's very important to the town, particularly seeing the hospital develop both from a town and a regional perspective, but we know people have questions and you're never going to feel you have enough answers. So we are developing a Q&A of questions that we feel you may have or have been asked tonight, and we will post those on the website so that through the process you can see some of the responses, and either you'll get a better sense of comfort or you won't, but at least you'll have some of the answers earlier in the process. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. I do have one more, if that's okay.
Of course.
Will that information be spread more widespread to the community, as it seemed like only the people on our street that I'm aware of actually got something in the mail about this that even knew, unless somebody's following the town website, which very few people do.
Well, for the purpose of tonight's meeting, we followed the Planning Act requirement, which is notifying people within a particular distance of the site. So the entire town doesn't get notified. I would say, though, I have noticed a lot of advertisements or notices about the meeting. So I'm going to suggest that people do go to the town website, because that's where we're going to post the information. It's the most cost-effective way, and I encourage you to tell your neighbors, your friends, if they want more information, to go to the website. And it'll be under Green Earth Village.
Well, we're telling everyone, but I think it's also a responsibility of the town to make sure that everybody's advised, whether, not everybody's looking at the website. That's just the way it is. And I think it's a responsibility of the town and the developer to let the entire community know of something this size. Not just Doug Ford standing at a digging site.
Appreciate your...
She's asking for more public consultations as we go along. That's what I think she's asking. When they get ready to do some things like planning, what's going where.
And why is this not area of
Can
floodplain?
can you please come to the microphone so that everyone can hear? And
I live on Balmoral, and why is this not a floodplain? This area is so wet and damp, and for 40 years it's been sponge, so why are we being allowed to develop it?
would you like? Okay, go ahead.
Well, when the town undertook its official plan review, and we have consultation with the various agencies, including the Conservation Authority, and various studies are done, it does not show it as a floodplain. It shows that we can develop the lands.
Do you live there?
No, I don't.
Well, I do. Come see my backyard. Come see down the valley in the spring. It doesn't even need to be spring. You go down there any time of the year and it goes sponge, and you have.
I'm sorry, ma'am. It would be really great if, I know people in the room can hear you, but we may have people online who can't hear you. So for those of,
Thing into the town to read, and you didn't read it, so.
so what I will, for those people who are listening at home, there's an individual here who was just asking about the water areas that this particular neighborhood on Balmoral has wet areas, and there's some hope that that drainage can be addressed in that area. Did I capture the?
There are tons of little creeks running through here, all sorts of. Okay, I don't even know if this thing's on.
Yeah,
Anyways,
go ahead.
and if you guys have lived here long enough, you would realize that some lady fell out of a plane and survived in there because it's so spongy.
I think that's the first time I've heard that.
Well, it
That's the new.
So in response, I appreciate your comment and the concern, and part of the technical studies that are undertaking are to address those very matters.
Please come forward.
I already sent him a whole thing of stuff.
Great, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Seetha. I'm a resident of Queensville. Just have more of a question, maybe towards the folks looking after all this. I live right on Leslie, within that valley, so I, along with my neighbors here, are really concerned, would like to know what's going to happen with potentially 30, 50 people being displaced. I understand the significance for the town and what this means, but that is going to absolutely impact quite a few of us. So if I can get some clarification on that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Ms. Vivakis is able to answer some of that right now.
Well, I'm looking for clarification. I don't quite understand when you say
Right.
displaced.
Well, right now, looking at the map, and it's been because I've seen different iterations of the maps, I feel that currently where we live, along with our neighbors, we may, if the land's rezoned, what does that mean for those people that live along Leslie? I guess if that's clearer.
Your lands wouldn't be adversely affected in the sense that we're looking at rezoning the lands that are subject to the application,
Okay.
not lands that are not. So since your lands are not part of the application,
Okay, maybe I'm confused. Okay, yes, sorry, carry on.
so you wouldn't be part of the rezoning.
Okay, but maybe I'm confused then when we look at the renderings, because it looks as if the folks north of the cemetery, down the valley, that particular area is what I'm referring to.
I think you may be referring to, and I'm guessing here, to the official plan designation or the community design plan.
Yes. Yes, I think that's the confusion.
okay.
So there's a
Right.
difference between the zoning, which is on a property-by-property basis,
Okay.
and the community design plan and the official plan, which are much higher level and longer term. So it says,
Right.
if a change comes here, this is what it would look like. And I'll let Ms. Vivakis explain
Okay.
further.
Thank you.
You did a very good job. Thank you. So there's levels of planning approvals. So the first is the official plan, and that's the one that I believe you're looking at.
Okay.
That shows a change.
Right.
And we're happy to sit down and, when I say sit down, you can call us. You don't have to come in. But to speak to us so you have a better understanding of what that specifically means to your property. We're not taking away any rights through that. And that's a process that the town is doing through the official plan. It's actually not part of this application, so it's a separate process that's been ongoing for many, many, many years, coming to fruition. And as Mr. Mackay said, it was actually adopted in 2002, but it's coming back to council. But we're happy to explain that. But your property rights are not being removed through that process.
It's just, I mean, I'm sure everyone can understand that there's confusion surrounding that. And again, businesses, folks like my partner and I, we've been in the town for over 10 years, so we very much value and appreciate it, but also understanding, yes, development needs to take place, but I think my more immediate concern was, what does that look like directly for some of those folks? So,
Just reach out to us and we'll happily explain what is happening, being recommended for your lands.
excellent, great. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome.
My name is Mike Kluger. I live on Balmoral as well. Seems like everyone on Balmoral seems to be concerned as to what's happening in behind us, floodplains, et cetera. My concern is, how long will this project take? When does it start? And I noticed that the access roads are by the cemetery and the other one's by Queensland Side Road. That would mean trucks per day access to where? Queensland Side Road, 404. The Bradford bypass probably you won't be in, so they'll be on Leslie and Queensland Side Road. Is that correct?
So you're asking a multitude of questions. Let me start with the first one, in terms of timing.
Right.
That's an unknown for me right now, and it's an unknown for council. And the reason it's an unknown is quite simply there's approvals that have to be obtained. So tonight is the statutory meeting. We come back with a recommendation report. When that recommendation report is assuming it's adopted, that gives the zoning. We still have to go through the draft plan of subdivision, which can take, I'm going to say, it's a more detailed level of planning that sets out various conditions that would be applicable. That could take till the fall sometime. It could take a little bit longer. Then one has to get final approval, so the applicant has to address each of the conditions of draft plan in order to enter into a subdivision agreement. I know that there is a desire to see the hospital move forward faster, so I will be very transparent that town staff is putting their time and energy on this because there's a benefit to the region, but it doesn't mean that we're skipping any steps of the process. In fact, it's actually ends up being somewhat better for people because it's not something that comes before you today and then disappears for 5 years, then comes back. So it's a continuous process that we're going through. In terms of when you'll see the first shovel in the ground, I'm not actually the person who has that answer. The applicant is the one who knows when they will be proceeding with development following their approvals.
Okay, there's obviously rumors float around immediately. And permits, et cetera, will they take 1 to 2 years or longer or shorter?
They'll take the amount of time, you're not going to like my answer, they're going to take the amount of time required in order to do the thorough work that our building staff have to do.
Generally speaking.
I honestly don't have the answer to that. I'd have to check with our CPO. But we don't have any applications for building permits in right now, and nor will we until there's an approval in place, and there is no approval.
The subdivision, would that be built prior to the hospital or the hospital prior to the subdivision?
And that's for the applicant to answer. The town does the approvals, the timing is up to the applicant, although there are timing commitments with respect to the hospital.
Okay. Thanks
So,
very much.
At this point, maybe we can ask Mr. Mackay to come forward and see if he can answer some of the questions that have been raised by the public.
Great.
If you want to.
Thank you very much,
proceed.
Madam Chair.
Of course.
I'll try to answer the last one. In terms of how it works, obviously, Mr. Vaughn took us through the approval process. There's going to be, in that subdivision approval, I would guess probably about 80 to 100 conditions that we need to deal with. And that sets out the framework for such things as the detailed engineering designs, the various levels of permits that are required from various agencies, including Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, the Region of York relative to the roads, legal matters in terms of transfers of land that have to occur, construction management details. So the gentleman asked about truck routes and whatnot. A lot of those things are dealt with through that subdivision process and ultimately secured through that legal agreement, the subdivision agreement, which is secured with the town, registered on title. So that's the process that we need to go through. So as we go through the zoning process, that sets the stage for the zoning, but then there's all the detail that has to occur. So this is a multi-level approval that has to happen. And so through the fullness of that process, there will be tons of review that happens. There'll be input, further input. The recommendation report on the zoning. There'll be further consultation through environmental assessment work relative to the road network that we're doing. So there's still engagement that's going to happen with the public. In terms of the timing of development, again, that is a big unknown. In terms of both the housing market, we know that's not great right now, but we do still need housing to be developed, and that's the process that we need to get through to get it so that we can deliver houses. Part of the work for the hospital is Green Earth Village is to prepare the site for the hospital. They are currently in a process with the province to finalize their approval process and the funding mechanisms and whatnot. So that's an ongoing process that South Lake is doing themselves. So Green Earth Village will deliver the property. That includes the creation of the lots, the registration of the subdivision, so that that land can be transferred to South Lake in a prepared manner. So graded, cleared and graded and whatnot. So that there will be some works that will be sooner than actual housing construction in terms of some of the servicing that has to occur, some of the grading components. That's a multi-year process that happens because of the size of the development. So that's in terms of, I can't give you the exact timing, but I'm giving you the process that it works through. Relative to the area behind the subdivision, Madam Clerk, if you could put up the community design plan, perhaps. That,
Appendix 4.
if yeah, or the subdivision plan, whichever one that's convenient. But that area, if I may, so I'm going to just turn this way so I can look at it and talk to the crowd. So your subdivision is the light brown area. So the next, you can see the cemetery is hatched. Your subdivision is to the south of that. And you can see that wet area, that floodplain area, that where there's all the environmental and the wetness, that's all green. So that area has been studied by our environmental consultants. It has been identified for protection. So that's not going to be developed. So everything basically behind the subdivision is effectively not being developed, if that helps you.
That is very wetland.
Yes, it is. So there will be, so on that, there will be, on the edges, there will be some refinements to some of the natural features that are there, and that will be compensated through additional plantings and reinforcement of the natural environment.
Trees down?
No, but there will be some removals, but the core features, those dark green areas, are going to be preserved.
Because we overlooked that.
Yes.
So we're going to see this mess for years, right?
Well, hopefully it's not too much of a mess, but we'll do our best.
Have you ever seen a development that's not a mess?
Well, I am the beholder, I guess.
Can I ask you a question? Is there a possibility, because my house in Toronto got hit with termites, they're moving the soil.
Sorry, can you come to the microphone, please, so that everyone can participate in this?
Stay here, don't forward.
Yep, I'm just going to stand.
Diane Priest again. I have a question.
Yes.
Can we not leave the soil on the property and move it just off to a certain site on the property instead of having the trucks constantly going up and down? Because you take it away, you're not bringing back the same soil. You're bringing somebody else's from somewhere else, and you could bring back termites that destroy our houses. And also there's artesian walls in the area that I don't know if you're aware of. I know my uncle's farm at Bogue Road has an artesian well. I think Queensville has one too, because they have like their ponds and they automatically filling up. You don't fill them up yourself. That's artesian wells in the grounds. But is there a possibility, so if you're working here and this is not being developed yet, move your soil onto there and then bringing it back up without taking it away and getting somebody else's stuff?
Thank you for the question. So it's in our client's best interest to balance the site in terms of the soil as much as possible on. The last thing they want to do is bring in truckloads of soil when they don't need to. So they will be grading the site to try to balance it as much as possible. There may be soil that has to be brought in because of the cut-fill balance to achieve that.
But again, part of the process with the town is for testing of soils and whatnot, because they have to be done, so.
They don't test for bugs, because I know I work with City
Okay.
Pond and I asked that question, and they don't.
Okay.
But I was wondering, like you said, that the property behind yours is empty. It's right
So
down to
is there anyone else who would like to speak at this time before I ask if members of council would like to? Okay, Mr. Pluja, would you have further questions?
Well, Mr. Kay said that, yes, there is that green space in behind there, but there's also that yellow strip in there, as well as that, the gray part is our subdivision there. But then there's also a section where there is building directly in behind that subdivision, am I not correct? Or what is that light area? There's
So-
also an area that goes right up against the cemetery, what is that?
So that you are correct. That is a portion of the community design plan that is outside of the natural area, is not part of my client's property. So it's separate ownership that, subject to them coming forward with their own zoning application, they could potentially develop that site because it is outside of the natural features we've identified.
Thank you.
I think we had someone else who put their hand up. Please come
Yeah,
forward.
That section going up to the cemetery, what is that?
where the hill is, where the hospital's going, there's a big hill there.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
So
What we do this.
Looks like a little tongue sticking out of the cemetery. The cemetery is all across us, right?
Yeah, okay.
So my
So
question.
you're talking about that area right in here? That's shown on that plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's the small area of brown that's surrounded by green. It's just south of the cemetery. So again, we have identified potentially that area does not contain natural heritage features to be retained. However, as part of our work, that is an area that's intended to be compensated in terms of infilled and naturalized. So that while we show that on this high-level plan as being potential development, our plans through the subdivision is that area is not going to be developed. It's going to be part of the natural environment and renaturalized.
Okay, good, because there's a stamp pit in there now. I'm assuming that that's what that is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we have
Thank you.
someone else who would like to speak tonight. Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Audrey Capillaris. We live on Ravenshoe Road, and we've lived in Queensville for 34 years. My question is specifically also about water, but in this case, what the source of the water is going to be for the new development. We are on a well, and in the last 10 years or so, as the development has increased in the area and the farming in the Holland Marsh has increased in intensity, a number of the wells on our street and in our neighborhood have gone dry, requiring new wells to be drilled. So with this level of development, we were just wondering what the source of the water is going to be.
The intention is that the water will be municipal water.
Can I ask you to sign in at the back, please?
Tell us anything.
Where are they getting it from?
Yeah, where are they getting it from? Underneath our houses?
So part of the process that we're dealing with, one of the things is with the region of York. So the region of York has the major trunk services, and they have a long-term plan for extensions. So the part of that municipal system is to extend that system to this area and connect the future houses as well as the other non-residential components to that municipal system. So it's a big part of the overall York system for water and wastewater.
So you're not going to hook up to the pumping stations that are at both ends of town?
I'm not the
ma'am, we
engineer,
can't-
but that's some of the details that are being worked out in terms of the various pumping stations and how things get to where they need to go.
Considers that their
I'm sorry. In order for us to have a meeting that is respectful to everybody, if you would like to speak, please come to the microphone, or wait and send it, or speak to spend some time speaking with one of our staff members. But having a back and forth where members of people in the room can't hear you and members of council can't hear you that's not going to be helpful for us to hear what your feedback is. So you've had an opportunity to speak. If you have more to say, we would love to hear it. But there's other people who would also like to speak. And so I'm trying to make sure that we are respectful of everyone's time. Please, sir, come forward.
Hopefully
Thank you
don't
for being
forget my
here.
question. Thank you. Hopefully I don't forget my question. A couple, actually. Back to the well. My name's Gareth. I live on Balmoral as well. I think my side of the street, majority of us have wells. And big development, obviously, there's going to be a lot of green space left over. I'm not against development, but something, if there's impact to our wells, what's the recourse for us as residents? That's going to be very important. I mean, that could be 10 years from now. I don't know. So that's one question. And the infrastructure around there, obviously Bradford bypass, the access roads for construction. We've all experienced at new subdivisions, you know, the roads just aren't ready for the traffic that ends up coming in at that point. So I really hope that there's some sort of level of consideration to have the infrastructure, the roadways sort of in place before all the people start coming in. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could just ask you to sign in at the back so we can stay in touch with you, that would be lovely. Would anyone else like to speak? Please come forward. Good evening.
Hello, thanks for taking my question. Again, it's a follow-up to the water. I know there's been problems in the past about getting onto that big trunk line from Lake Ontario. As far as I know, Lake Simcoe is totally overwhelmed already. So the third option will be from the artesianal wells, which do lower all the regular wells in the area. And the one on the Queensville side road, when that went in, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, several of my neighbors' wells dried out as a result of that one. So what's going to happen to all of us who are on wells if the option is artesianal wells for this big subdivision? Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Would we get some follow-up on that? Because people who live on wells, it's a very big impact on their living. Okay?
Yes, thank you. If you sign in at the back, then I think that is one of the questions that we have to commit to answering for you. Ms. Vouvakis, it's been noted?
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, what I'll do is I'm going to turn to members of council and ask if they have questions and feedback and thoughts that they'd like to share. And perhaps following that, there may be some other ideas that members of the public who haven't had an opportunity to speak would like to share their perspective. Members of council, I'll open the floor to you for your questions and comments. Councillor Johns, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Obviously, as a community and as a region, it is extremely exciting to be able to have the hospital coming, and along with the opportunity to see housing. Well, I wasn't on council, but as you're saying, for the past 20 years working on this, but I very much see, as our community has grown on the west side of Holland Landing and within Sharon and Queensville specifically, I feel like we are like on a tipping point of losing ourselves. Like, I grew up in Holt and Mount Albert, and so I've seen the community grow, but I think what is most important through the conversations that I've been having, if you think about the intersection of Queensville Side Road and Leslie Street, it's almost like there's really three sections the way that I am looking at it. It is essentially from the cemetery down to Queensville Side Road. And then on Queensville Side Road, it is the post office just to the other side of the flats, we'll call it. And then it's, again, looking at Queensville Side Road down to Jim Mortson. And there's been comments here tonight about what are the routes for the trucks, because I can't see from a non-intrusive way into the quality of life of the existing residents, how that is going to occur. And I think we need to work very hard as a municipality to attempt to help facilitate something to lessen that impact. I think that we need to be working with the region. Both Leslie Street and Queensville Side Road are regional roads, but I think the lessons that I seem to we can say learning from, I don't know that we have learned them from. I was walking down Leslie Street the other day south of Queensville Side Road, and you know, a dump truck goes barreling by at like easily 80, 85, but when you're walking down the street, it doesn't feel like 80, 85. It might as well be doing 110, 120 for how it feels. And so the thing is that when we're looking across our municipality, I feel like we have this one chance, this one moment to be able to say, yes, we want this and we support this. However, it shouldn't be at the expense of our quality of life. And what we need to do is that we are either going to use this as an opportunity to define who we are as a community, or we're going to lose ourselves. And by defining ourselves as a community, I'm talking about we need to do everything we can and again, Ms. Mouvakis, through you, Madam Chair, to Ms. Mouvakis, that we had in our meeting previously, that Leslie Street strip from Jim Mortson to Queensville Side Road, we have to, I believe, we need to move very quickly with a Gantt chart type plan that runs down the opportunity from a protection standpoint, from a beautification standpoint, to even possibly stopping trucks from being allowed to move through there. We need to be able to understand that impact. And then further into the future, be able to turn that area into a destination for everybody that's going to be in that area, to recognize that who we are as a community, as East Gwillimbury, as Queensville, like this is an opportunity. And but to the north, for the folks that live north of there and south of the cemetery, we need to protect that area. And I know that I don't have all the answers, but I think if we passively, it's not like it is incredibly dense, but we cannot just step away from those residents in that area. I clearly have more to say because I clearly talk too much, but I just feel like if we don't use this as an opportunity to protect who we are as East Gwillimbury residents and as a community, I worry that we will lose ourselves. So instead of taking the negative option, we need to be proactive, protect the quality of life for existing residents, and use this as an opportunity to define who we are. And happy to follow up with Ms. Mouvakis.
Thank you, Councillor Johns. Anyone else? Like Councillor Carruthers and then Councillor Crone. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't really understand the language around stepping away from those residents and taking negative options. That's not who we are. We are here to listen to the residents and do what we can to protect existing communities, as we always do. I think it's interesting how we heard comments about not enough info and is this a done deal? And I think that's what I've struggled with in my time on council is at what point do we have enough information to make a decision, and at what point is it past the point of no return, that the decisions have already been made based on our previous decision. So as Ms. Mouvakis has said, that we're early in the process, but we've also heard how this has been in the works for 20 years. When I first came on council 8 years ago, Green Earth Village, I was told, would be net zero. And now it's about the hospital site. And so people have reached out to me and said, what happened to that great idea that this would be like a community that people could look up to and aspire to? And I know that we're not at that stage yet. That's more site plan. But I'm wondering, that whole talk about net zero, making this the words, I'm missing the word, a community that people could look to for net zero options in housing. Is that all gone out the window? Is the whole Green Earth piece now just the name of a regular construction company, or does it still retain this idea that we can be greener?
It's still there. It's in the documentations that we've provided as part of the sustainability brief that we've provided. Our client's commitment to providing a sustainable community and to invest in that community sustainably and to create, use the tools that we can for a green earth are still there. It's just that the hospital was a fantastic catalyst to make that happen as soon as possible.
Great, and I think there's something that those two things can go hand in hand. The Trails Committee, when they heard about this, they asked about trails that would connect the hospital site, because, when people are at the hospital, waiting on a loved one or whatever, it's nice to be able to go out back and be able to access trails. We know that the hydro quarters back through there's talk about trails connecting with the Bradford bypass. So I think there's wonderful opportunities for that. I also want to echo the comment about bungalows. That is something that I've said over and over again. People want to retire into bungalows, and that's not a product that we have seen in a lot of plans, and I understand it's because of the land value. But I think it's something that there is a demand for, and I hear that from a lot of people. The two things that I want to stress as we go forward are parking and parks. I think it's important to have those big central parks that our park staff can do something with, but at the same time, it's important to have those small community parks that people can walk to with a stroller. And then my other comment was about the parking. Every plan that we put forward never has enough parking, and we end up with having to deal with it after the development's complete, trying to figure out what to do with all these cars. So in an ideal world, everyone would be on transit, but we know that that's not going to happen. I hope there's going to be multi-use trails so people can get around with other modes of transportation, but at the same time, we know inevitably people are going to need cars. And I know it's in our planning guidelines, and we're not at that stage yet. I'm just flagging that as something that I will be asking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Crone, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Acting Mayor, and I want to thank everyone for showing up tonight. It's time out of your schedule, your free time, and giving your feedback is appreciated. There were some messages that I heard loud and clear here tonight that I want staff and the applicant to take back with them. Traffic is a concern, not just after this is built, but during. There's going to be a lot of trucks on the road. And after it's built, there's going to be more traffic on the road. So we want to make sure that we consult with the region and make sure that our traffic concerns are addressed. I think that's a really important concern. I heard loud and clear about wells. I have a well myself, so I understand the anxiety around your well running out. So we need to have contingencies in place in case there's a problem. I want staff to be mindful of that. I'm going to echo the comment my colleague, Councillor Carruthers, mentioned about bungalows. I like the idea of bungalows. My door is always open to a developer that wants to talk about bungalows because we need a greater diversity in housing. So I would love to talk about that. I throw this out for consideration. There's a lot of questions here tonight, and I think there were more questions that could be asked. Not everyone's comfortable coming up to the microphone, I get that. Maybe an open house would be of value, so we could have, easels up with maps and designs, and I always find in those forums we get really great feedback, and it's good for staff, but it's also good for the applicant, because maybe the applicant never thought of something and they get a great idea from a resident, and I think that just makes us all better. But the other thing I think it's important to say, and I may not make friends by saying this, but I don't have many friends anyway, so I'll just say it. We can't sugarcoat this. When this area is built, there's going to be disruption. I'm sorry, but that's what's going to happen.
Councillor Foster. Thank you, Councillor Crum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a very ambitious plan, no doubt about it. I've been around here a long time, and I'm sure a lot of other folks in the audience here tonight are going, wow, little old Queensville? Like, really? That's the big one that we've got to try to work ourselves through. But tonight we talked about a lot of important things, like we talk about the water, we talk about the EP land, and I think that EP land answered some questions for some folks. I too wanted to mention the value in an open house, to bring people together, to just let them talk, not in a public forum so much like this. I think everybody needs to know that the council hears the residents, staff hear the residents, the developer and the planners that work for the developers hear the residents. And I think that, you know, it's easy for us to say we're looking for something that is sympathetic to the surrounding neighborhoods. It's sympathetic to the cemetery. It's a big institution that's been there for a long time, let's say. But we have to hear all that stuff, so there is some good back and forth with the developer and with the planners, and hopefully a compromise can come from that. Contrary to popular belief from some folks that we hear from, that we bend and bow down to the developers. There is a lot of back and forth with developers, and there's a lot of compromise that's done on our developments. So it's important that you have your say here. It's important that you send some information in, and that gives this council or future council, whoever it may be, something to dig their teeth into and try to compromise with the developer. So I'll leave it at that, but this is important, what we went through tonight, for sure. And an open house would be a great idea.
Councillor Leahy, please go ahead. Thank you, Councillor.
I want to thank our General Manager of Development Services, Carrie Vumvakas, whom gave the opportunity to all members of council to meet with Mr. Doust prior to this public statutory meeting to give us context and make the meeting more efficient. I would like to ask Madam Vumvakas to please clarify for everyone who are looking at these diagrams, because I asked this question in our previous meeting. There is an H on that map, and I was informed that that is not the current location of the hospital. And so could you provide clarification and confirmation on the map exactly where the hospital will be going in the future for everyone's benefit? And I wanted to say, though, overall, I'm extremely excited about this. It was worth the wait. And, you know, good things are worth waiting for in terms of being selected for the hospital, which will bring healthcare closer to all residents of East Gwillimbury. And timing is everything in life, because there are multiple pieces coming together at the same time. So on this map and diagram, you have a long-term care facility that has already been approved by the province. That's going to be part of this community. You have the hospital, you have the future Bradford bypass for access to the hospital, etc. And so could you provide us with, first of all, the exact location of the hospital so that it's clear on the map and it's not that faded H off in the other corner, of that that is land that is currently owned, as far as my understanding, by York Region, and maybe the home of future housing. We don't know at this point what the York Region has planned for that property. But in terms of the timing, which is everything in life, when will the Bradford bypass tentatively be completed? When will the first phase, what is your goal in terms of timeline for that to be completed?
Sure. So I'll answer the easy one first. If we can go to the next slide. I believe it's the next slide.
Through you, Madam Chair, just bear with us as our production desk is trying to
okay, I
retrieve
see.
the document.
Great.
Sometimes our presenters bring lasers. Did you bring your laser?
I didn't bring a laser. I'll bring it next time. I'm kind of a little bit old school. So.
I'm tall, but I'm not that tall.
Yeah, my associate Eric, he's pretty tall, but I don't think he can reach that even.
You brought Eric instead of a
Yes.
laser.
There we go. So the light blue area, so on the right-hand side of this screen is Leslie Street. The light blue area is the hospital site, just to be clear. So, and then the long-term care facilities to be located to the south of the east-west road that intersects, to the south in the blue. And then we've got the mix of housing and whatnot that we're looking at. There is, we were looking at a portion of the region's lands that were within the community design plan, and we had expressed a thought that perhaps a school or a park could be located there, or it's also mixed use, so it could be developed should they sell the lands as surplus. But we have been working with staff in terms of a consolidated park school design, as well as other neighborhood parks through with that. That's part of the ongoing flurry of activity for the last few months, and we're going to have further refinements to the draft plan of subdivision accordingly. That will be reflected in the official plan as well as in the community design plan.
And so to follow up through you, Madam Chair, in terms of the timeline of the completion, so I was asked specifically today by a resident, what's the projected completion date for Bradford Bypass? Does that coincide with the anticipated 8 to 10 years to build the hospital? When will the long-term care facility be completed? And when will the pipe go all the way up there to supply the hospital?
So there's lots of different, and I'm not saying, I'm not trying to be cagey. It's just there's a lot of different components to those things. Obviously, for the Bradford bypass, that detailed design work is ongoing. I believe the detailed design, if I remember correctly, was 2027. So in terms of when they can start construction, I don't have an answer to that. The hospital process, obviously, it's hospitals take a long time to build, but we're supposed to be delivering the land for them as soon as possible. There are commitments for that delivery, and so that's part of the approval process. We still need the zoning and everything else part of it. In terms of the rest of the community, obviously that's tied to a lot of the off-site regional works that need to occur that are going to be front-ended and cost-shared as part of this work, that the allocation that was granted by the town. In a perfect world, if once the infrastructure is available, the roads are in place, typical build-out is probably about 200 to 300 homes a year, depending on the market. So obviously we have, in the fullness of the development, around 3,000 homes, and that's a variety of different unit types, not just singles or semis or bungalows or whatnot. It's mid-rise buildings as well as part of this, so some of those take longer to build. But on average, my clients would be looking at, anywhere from, 200 to 300 units per year, ideally, to deliver. So that would take, 10 years.
Well, thank you very much for that that overview of all of these pieces of the puzzle coming together, and there are lots of moving parts. I very much believe and am optimistic that we have to have a vision for the future of East Gwillimbury, and the challenge is always balancing the benefits of the growth that will come with the addition of a hospital with maintaining the quality of life for the residents in the future. So that's the challenge of the job, but I love the job. So thank you very much for the information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leahy. I will also share that the province has made a presentation to Bradford Council as well as York Region Council and giving them an update. The East Gwillimbury portion of the Bradford bypass is in phase 2, and I have suggested to staff that maybe we would also want to invite them to come and speak to us and give us an update. So I think that's in the works, but as I understand it, the Bradford bypass is coming from the west and moving to the east, so we're in the second half of that construction. So I don't think we should be expecting you to tell us when that's going to be completed, Mr. Mackay. If there's any other comments, and members of committee, members of the public, now that you've heard some of the committee, some of the comments from council, would anyone else like to speak and add their voice to the suggestions? And I'll just make some concluding remarks. Yes, please come forward. You've had some time to steep.
I'm back. My suggestion was basically what you just said about inviting the province or inviting the region. We're getting half answers because there's so many cooks in the kitchen, and you guys can't know all the answers, the developers, and the town doesn't know all the answers, and part of it's the region, and different roads belong to different people, and we're going to have the bypass, which is going to be the province. So when you have this open house, in respect of everybody's time, if you could arrange for all those groups to be there, that we can all have our questions answered by everybody that has the answers, instead of walking away not knowing and getting passed on. And my other question was, I'm forgetting. I'm tired and hungry.
We feel you.
Yes. Yes, the high rises. Thank you. Thanks. I feel like that's being skimmed over. I've gone through the packages and the applications and read, and there's high rises in there that are 12 stories. And I feel like that's being skimmed over just by mentioning that there's going to be residential and commercial. And high rise is a big deal. That's a totally different landscape. And that's not what this town is. We're a small town. We can expand and we can grow. But to your point, Mr. Johns, we're going to lose ourselves. And we're not, I don't think, wanting to be a city. And what that does is one pops up and then another one pops up, and that's what that's going to create. And I don't care what you say, that is what it will happen, especially along a corridor where there's a highway. And I just think that needs to be discussed and addressed and pointed out, because I feel like that little part, we've heard mid-rise, but nobody said high-rise. We've heard density, but nobody said high-rise. That's the height. And I think that's an important note. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Vavakis, go ahead.
You know, having listened to what everyone's been saying tonight and to our members of council, I think what we're going to look to organize is a open house where we can have the applicant and staff present. What I can't commit to is having the province there. I highly doubt that will happen. We will reach out to the region and see if they will send staff to be able to come to an open house to answer questions.
Thank you.
A little more detail about the high-rise.
Thank you. And I, just as far as my concluding remarks, this is, I'm just going to echo a few things that what my colleagues have said and be a little bit more specific. And one of them is when we talk about the road infrastructure and the existing regional roads in place, the intersection of Queensville Side Road and Leslie already needs attention, especially when we saw challenges with truck traffic trying to navigate that intersection just to build south in Queensville. And I think that the time is now for us to work with the region and have the applicant work with the region to make sure that that intersection can be enlarged or addressed in some way that would make it safer, that would make it easier to navigate with larger trucks. To Councillor Carruthers' comments, she echoed my question, which was, I was going to ask Mr. Mackay to talk a little bit about the sustainability initiatives that were part of Green Earth Village. This has been worked on. When I first joined council, I had these workbooks that landed on my desk that talked about the vision. And so, Mr. Mackay, I don't think we need to belabor the point tonight because you did address it. Yeah. But I think it's really important to for your client, Mr. Mackay, to share with the community the forward-thinking technology that they're looking to integrate into this community and into the buildings itself. And I think that the suggestion this evening to have an information night for the community, to have a design charrettes or whatever it is to share, because quite frankly, a printout of this is it's challenging to engage with unless it's in a larger format, and we can see the community network, where the community resources are, where the school, where the parks, where the community centers, because those are all in this plan. I just can't tell you where they are right now because they're hard to see, and maybe it's just my menopausal eyes, I don't know. But for me, it's about understanding that network, the network of trails and green space, and making sure that it is a livable community. And I know, because I've seen the old documents, that is a value that your client adheres to. And conveying that to the neighbors, I think, is an important value. To Councillor Carruthers' point about the parks, and it's not just about one large park, but a network of parks where you can, especially if you live in the high rise, you need to be able to access green space easily. And so for me, it's about looking at that network and saying, where do I go to shop? Where do I go to learn? Where do I go to recreate? Where do I go to get help? And I think that that's all here. It's just a question of making sure that you can see that network and how easy it is to access those things. And so that's sort of my high-level comments as far as community design goes. And obviously, we owe the community some answers as far as their wells, the stormwater runoff, the impact to the surrounding neighborhoods, and of course, making sure that the roads are of sufficient size to address not just construction traffic, but day-to-day traffic as well. So those were sort of my thoughts. I wanted to thank everybody very much for coming here this evening and sharing your evening with us and not falling asleep. And I think what I'll do is just bring that to a close, and I think there's probably a motion that I need to make somewhere. But thank you, Mr. Mackay, for your presentation to us as well. And I will also say that if you think of something, you go home tonight, I do my best thinking in the shower. If you go home tonight and you come up with something that, there's a brilliant idea that you think that should be included in this, you know where to find us, and you also know to send an email to Mr. Dow, who's here, and send a note into the town, and we will make sure that it's incorporated into the file. And if you have a question, we want to make sure that that question gets answered. So with that, I need a motion to receive the presentations, receive the presentations, and that the comments received at the statutory public meeting be addressed by Development Services Planning Branch in a comprehensive report to a future council meeting. Ms. Mouvakis, would it be appropriate for us to respectfully request a community meeting as well as part of that resolution?
It would be just fine to do that.
Okay, so, and that council respectfully requests that the applicant consider an informal public meeting to share their plans.
I'd call it a community information meeting.
Okay.
Might be a better term.
A community information meeting. I have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Johns and Councillor Crone. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. It is 8:09, and so what I'm going to suggest at 8:10, I'm going to suggest a quick 5-minute recess in order for those of you who would like to leave to be able to leave, and those of you who would like to stay to stretch your legs. Oh, thank you very much. We're back. We are going to continue with the balance of our agenda this evening. We are in the midst of another statutory public meeting. This is item 2 on the agenda, and this is a proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 19350 Woodbine Avenue. This is a public meeting for file ZBA 26.02. And I am going to turn this over to the General Manager of Development Services, Ms. Wimvakis, to kick off the public meeting, please, and thank you.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. This is an application for a rezoning application located on the west side of Woodbine Avenue, running westward towards Highway 404. It's south of Doan Road and north of Mount Albert Road. The application is to rezone the lands from rural to employment general to allow for site-specific zoning standards for additional uses and accessory uses, which include a concrete batching plant, an asphalt plant, and accessory industrial uses. The applicant is looking at this point in time at 3 single-story industrial buildings with accessory office space, 631 vehicle parking spaces, along with approximately 120 loading spaces. The applicant does have a presentation this evening, and I will turn it over to, Arthi is going to do it? Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of council, staff, members of the public, both joining us in person and virtually this evening. My name is Arthi Thaya, and I'm the Senior Development Manager at Rice Group, representing our partnership group, 19350 Woodbine GP Inc., the property owners of 19350 Woodbine Avenue. I would like to start off by conveying our thanks to staff for the review of our application and the scheduling of this evening's statutory public meeting. I look forward to being the liaison for staff as we move through the processing of this zoning bylaw application. We recognize the growing demand for well-planned employment and commercial lands and are committed to bringing these opportunities to market in a thoughtful and responsible manner. Our intention is to retain ownership of these properties long-term following development, allowing us to remain invested in the success of both our projects and the communities in which we build. This long-term approach, we aim to be active and positive contributors to the continued growth and prosperity of the municipalities we invest in. This evening, I am joined by Rice Group's senior management team, and we are available to answer any questions you may have throughout this meeting. Next slide, please. Our 29-hectare site, municipally known as 19350 Woodbine Avenue, is generally located on the west side of Woodbine Avenue, north of Mount Albert Road, south of Doan Road, and east of Highway 404. Next slide, please. The proposed conceptual development plan includes employment buildings totaling 68,000 square meters, a 6-acre stormwater management pond, and 24 acres of natural heritage area. The northern edge of the stormwater management pond represents the approximate development limit and is intended to function as a buffer from the natural heritage area and an existing residential property, which will be protected from development and site alteration. This approach reflects sound land use planning by establishing a clear and appropriate transition between built forms and natural features while supporting long-term environmental protection and site functionality. Next slide, please. A zoning bylaw amendment application has been submitted to redesignate the subject lands from the existing rural to employment general M2 zone. In addition, the application proposes site-specific zoning standards to permit expanded industrial uses. From a planning perspective, our proposed development represents an appropriate and logical use of the lands within the context of East Gwillimbury's long-term growth strategy. The site is located within a planned employment area intended to accommodate industrial and job-generating uses, and the proposed zoning will help implement the town's vision for a complete community by supporting local employment opportunities, reducing commuter outflow, and strengthening the non-residential tax base. Overall, the proposal reflects good planning by aligning with policy objectives, optimizing the use of designated employment lands, and contributing to the economic sustainability of East Gwillimbury for the present and long term. Next slide, please. The subject property is designated employment area within the York Region Official Plan, intended primarily for industrial uses such as manufacturing, warehousing, and accessory office or retail uses. Under the Town of East Gwillimbury Official Plan and Highway 404 Employment Corridor Secondary Plan, the lands are designated general employment and environmental protection. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment conforms with the applicable secondary plan and supports the planned employment function of the subject lands. Next slide, please. Traffic has been carefully evaluated through a comprehensive transportation impact study, which considers not only the subject lands, but also the surrounding transportation network. The study assesses existing traffic conditions, future background growth, traffic generated by the proposed development, and planned regional road improvements. Traffic capacity was undertaken for existing conditions, as well as 2028 build-out and 2033 future background and total build-out scenarios. The results demonstrate that all study intersections are expected to operate well within acceptable levels of service under all scenarios. Access to the site has been carefully configured to prioritize safety, support efficient traffic flow, and provide safe turning movements. The introduction of site-generated traffic is not expected to create adverse or critical traffic conditions at any of the study intersections. From a broader planning perspective, the proposed access strategy appropriately directs traffic to Woodbine Avenue, a regional arterial road specifically designed to accommodate employment and commercial traffic. This approach helps to protect nearby residential dense areas by minimizing cut-through traffic, maintaining neighborhood character, and ensuring that traffic is managed within the attended road network. Next slide, please. Stormwater will be managed entirely on-site using modern engineering approaches, including low-impact development measures and groundwater recharge. Post-development runoff will be controlled to match existing conditions, ensuring no impacts to surrounding properties or natural features. All servicing will be designed in accordance with the Town of East Gwillimbury, York Region, and Conservation Authority standards, and will be subject to full review and approval prior to construction. From a servicing perspective, a new external municipal water main and sanitary sewer are proposed along Woodbine Avenue, extending north from Mount Albert Road to 19350 Woodbine Avenue. These works will be developer-led and delivered in accordance with the external works agreement with the municipality. The proposed water main and sanitary infrastructure have been designed with future servicing considerations in mind, including appropriate sizing and connection points to enable efficient extension northward when required to support long-term growth in the area. Next slide, please. The Natural Heritage Report identified that the majority of the natural features are located north of the subject site within the Harrison Creek corridor. The corridor will be retained and protected through a 30-meter vegetated protection zone, consistent with the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan, York Region Official Plan, and Town of East Gwillimbury Official Plan. To further minimize impacts, road ecology measures will be incorporated, including wildlife awareness, crossing signage, minimizing artificial lighting near natural features, and reducing salt use in sensitive areas during winter maintenance. In addition, the proposed stormwater management pond will act as a buffer between the environmental protection area and the development, including the employment building and its associated parking and loading areas. Overall, the development represents a logical and responsible approach to growth while protecting and enhancing the surrounding natural heritage system. Next slide, please. We recognize the importance of meaningful public engagement. In accordance with Town of East Gwillimbury, we have established open lines of communication to keep nearby residents informed throughout the process. This has included mailed notices, on-site signage, and this evening's public meeting, providing opportunities for the community to understand the proposal, the planning process, and to share questions and feedback. We understand there may be common concerns between the site and existing neighbors. In response, we have proactively worked with our consultant team to thoughtfully balance these concerns with technical requirements, town urban design guidelines, and applicable regulations. Noise mitigation measures are being incorporated to protect nearby properties and in accordance with provincial guidelines. Baseline well and foundation assessments, along with ongoing monitoring, will be undertaken for adjacent homes. Any issues identified will be addressed. As active members of the East Gwillimbury community, we will continue to work collaboratively with the town and its residents to refine mitigation measures and maintain open, transparent communication as the project advances. Next slide, please. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment is anticipated to facilitate uses that will generate approximately 943 new jobs, along with the estimated $1 million in one-time planning applications and permit fees, and approximately another $1 million in annual municipal and regional tax revenue. In addition, the development is expected to contribute approximately $22 million in development charges, supporting the delivery of parks, trails, and other community amenities. Employment lands such as these are critical to maintaining a balanced municipal tax base and alleviating pressure on residential taxation. As active, long-term members of the East Gwillimbury community, we align with the town's strategic priorities by advancing environmental stewardship, social well-being, and economic growth, both today and into the future, through the thoughtful development of employment lands. Our approach is grounded in maximizing economic opportunity while contributing to a resilient and sustainable tax base that supports high-quality municipal programs and services. At the same time, we are committed to delivering well-designed sites that incorporate innovative technologies and best practices to promote environmental sustainability and long-term performance. We will continue to work collaboratively with our prospective tenants to identify opportunities for enhanced energy efficiency and to future-proof the buildings, ensuring adaptability to evolving technologies and operational needs. Overall, the proposal represents a balanced and forward-thinking approach to advancing East Gwillimbury's long-term vision for job creation, economic growth, and responsible development. Next slide, please. We thank council, staff, and members of the public for their time this evening and all their cumulative efforts thus far regarding this proposed development. We are confident that this proposal supports East Gwillimbury's vision of growing together by creating new local employment opportunities, appropriately protecting and enhancing natural heritage spaces, and contributing to a strong and sustainable local economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thaya. So now that we've had the presentation from the applicant and the applicant's agent, we're now on to public comments. I believe we have two registered speakers for tonight's meeting. The first one is Jean Johnson.
Good
Welcome.
evening.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. To begin with, could we bring back one of the slides that shows the map of the proposed development?
Madam Clerk, can we put that up? That might be helpful for all the conversation. We'll just wait for staff to do that.
Wonderful, thank you.
Does that one? Okay, great.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Edwards, and I am Jean Johnston's daughter-in-law. Mrs. Johnston lives at 19512 Woodbine Avenue, which is surrounded by the Rice Group's land. Mrs. Johnston and her family wish that the lands retain its rural status. There is no benefit to Mrs. Johnston for the lands to rezone the rural lands to employment general and the additional permitted and accessory uses, concrete batching plant, asphalt plant, and accessory industrial uses. Mrs. Johnston has resided on Woodbine Avenue for the past 64 years. At this time, she has no wish to move. If you approve the lands for rezoning, I see no option for Mrs. Johnston to remain at her home. The traffic and incumbent noise will be horrendous, and if the stormwater management system is not managed properly, she will be living beside a mosquito breeding ground. The plan is for these businesses to operate 24 hours per day, 7 days a week. The proposed access to the site just south of Mrs. Johnston's home will mean at peak hours she may not even have access to go in or out of her driveway. There will be no relief living beside these businesses. This is not taking into account the associated health risks of living beside a concrete or asphalt plant and the associated idling vehicles. I did send an email to Ms. Thaya of the Rice Group to inquire if there is any interest in purchasing Mrs. Johnston's home. After 2 missed appointments by Ms. Thaya, we did connect. I would advise that the Rice Group is not interested in purchasing Mrs. Johnston's home, and they prefer to coexist with their neighbors. I was advised, however, if Mrs. Johnston decides to sell her home, please feel free to contact the Rice Group. I do not know why the Rice Group wished to speak in person when their position could have easily have been communicated by email. I felt by missing appointments, a message was being sent that Mrs. Johnston was unimportant and found the description of coexisting to be demeaning. I further felt that the action of calling if Mrs. Johnston decides to sell would have no purpose other than a possible lowball offer from the Rice Group. I don't know anyone who would want to live beside what the Rice Group is proposing. Would any of you? I can only assume that the Rice Group feels that this is a done deal and the purpose of the public meeting is for optics only. Hundreds of pages are included in this proposals, with studies, calculations, and recommendations to be met to allow this project to move forward. Much money has been spent discussing idling vehicles, HVAC noise, vibrations, and traffic. Once constructed, who is going to ensure all requirements will be followed? Who is going to be monitoring dangerous emissions? It feels that Mrs. Johnston would be in a position of having to complain on a regular basis. For Mrs. Johnston to stay in her home, her quality of life will be destroyed, and that is not addressing any potential health issues that may result. To sell her home, it will need to be at a severely reduced price, as her options will be limited, as no one will want to purchase her home to live in. Mrs. Johnston and her neighbors deserve better than council approving this project. Just because something can be built does not mean that it should be. I will leave you with some handouts and abstracts regarding health effects of asphalt, concrete, and idling vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. The next speaker on our list is Brian Neal.
Hello,
Welcome.
my name is Brian Neal. I live with my parents across the street at 19457 Woodbine. And on behalf of my parents and myself, I'd like to definitely oppose the changing of the zoning. I feel, as my neighbor have said, that it's going to be noisy, it's going to be smelly. I worry about pollution from the bitumen during the asphalt processing, polluting our well. I worry about the trumpeter swans that we see across the street using that land during the winter, and where are they going to go? I think that's kind of mostly it. Well, I also worry about like the large truck traffic, dump trucks coming in and out all day long, cement trucks coming in and out all day long, the sounds of machinery running. I've worked in brick factories. They are loud. Outside, they are loud. You can't do much to make them quiet. So living across the street from that is going to be torture. If they end up running into the night, we're not going to be able to sleep. And I don't believe a company like the Rice Group really cares about their neighbors. I don't think they will do much to mitigate noise or dust and pollution. So thank you for your time. And
Thank you for your comments. So that's the end of our registered speakers list. I'm just wondering if there's anyone here this evening who would like to speak. If you haven't registered already, that's okay. The microphone is yours if you'd like to speak.
I
Good evening.
apologize, I didn't have an opportunity to read through all the documentation.
Could we go back to the slide that talks about the number of trucks that are going to be added to the roads?
Was
This
this the
being a-
slide you were referring to?
Yeah. No, yes. So you have 159 two-way trips weekday during peak hours. Has this been studied? Is it laid out in your plans, how you came up with this number? Because to me, that's about 30% of what the actual trucking would be on a plant this big. I work in the field of excavation and moving asphalt and concrete. It seems like a very low number to operate such a facility. So I'm just wondering where those numbers came up with, if there's documentation showing the production of the plant, because I think those numbers are probably 30% of the amount of trucking you're going to have going to those plants. So I'd just like to see real backup as to where those numbers came from, because the trucking going down Woodbine, and we're talking about another development just up the road with the hospital, and now if you're going to add even 500 or 600 two-way loads a day coming across there, I would just like full information. That's what I'm asking for, just verification where those numbers came up with, and whether a plant that size could actually operate with such few trucking numbers coming in and out each day. It just seems very low. Thanks.
Ms. Thaya, are you in a position to answer that at this time?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the member of public, yes, I am in a position to answer that question. I think there's a little bit of confusion with the additional industrial uses that we've asked in terms of concrete batching and asphalt plants. The proposed concept plan that is being shared as part of this presentation contemplates 3 employment uses, primarily industrial or warehousing. However, we have asked for concrete batching and asphalt plants to be added as additional uses under the zoning bylaw amendment. The reason that we are requesting these additional uses is because there is some need for infrastructure delivery and ongoing development activity, as discussed earlier in today's council meeting within East Gwillimbury and the broader region. These uses provide essential materials that are required for road and municipal infrastructure, housing, and employment development projects, and they would be appropriately located in an area such as this that is a designated employment area that has access to major highways such as Highway 404 and the future Highway 425, which is why these additional uses of the concrete batching and asphalt plant have been added. In terms of the traffic numbers that are being shared on the screen as well as shared in my presentation, those are based on a traffic impact study that was conducted based on the 3 employment building concept plan that we're sharing in today's presentation and public meeting. If we were to proceed with the site plan application that contemplates a concrete batching or asphalt plant, if approved through a zoning bylaw amendment by council, then we would have to provide a revised traffic impact study calculating those particular truck traffic generated by that particular use and building size and facility and the number of trucks that are anticipated to be coming in and out. That would be discussed both with the region and the town, and then any appropriate off-site improvements that would need to be done to Woodbine would be contemplated and completed at that time. But just for clarity, the current numbers are based on 3 proposed employment use buildings at this time. I hope that answers the individual's question.
Thank you for your answer, Ms. Thaya. Is there anyone else who would like to speak or ask a question? Members of council, would you, do any of you have comments or statements you'd like to make? Councillor Johns, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Madam Chair. 2 questions to start. What would be the heights of the building, and then what would be the setbacks to Ms. Johnson's, and then, sorry, didn't write down your name, but at 19457 Woodbine, like what would be
They're across
that
the
property?
street.
Sorry, I was just going to say, not using the nomenclature of setback, but what would be the actual distance?
Ms. Thaya, go ahead, please.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Johns. I do not have the exact setback on hand at the moment. However, we're contemplating a vegetated area behind that residential home that would be part of the stormwater management block that is proposed behind the home. We would be working with the homeowner as well as staff to appropriately design that area so it meets some sort of transitional zone or landscaped area between the residential property and that stormwater management pond. So that would be something that we're taking back in terms of comments today, and we'll continue working with both engineering, parks, and planning staff to appropriately plan. But we would at least at minimum meet whatever town standards are for this area, if not more through our process of working with town staff here.
Sorry, and follow up, because I don't know if I had my question answered. What would be the municipal setback then for a building to the edge of the property in this case? Ms. Voumvakis, or through you, Madam Chair.
So we don't have specific statistics on the zoning that's being applied for as far as setbacks.
No, I do not have that information.
Okay. So we can get that.
Do we know the height? I'm not sure you were able to answer that question.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Johns, yes, we would be complying with the applicable general employment use or zone within the 4-4 secondary plan, which would be 4 stories.
Thank you.
But if it's a concrete batching plant, there's no building. It's a 4-story tower?
Through you.
I'm a little, I have to admit, I'm actually a little bit confused, because one part of your application is 3 industrial buildings with 159 trips in the morning and 167 trips times 2 each way every morning. And then you've got an application for a batching plant, which is a completely different land use and a completely different consideration. So which is it that you're applying for?
Madam Chair, at this time, we're contemplating 3 employment industrial uses. However, based on current market demands and tenant interest that we're seeing in this area, we've come today with the zoning bylaw amendment with the contemplation of potentially adding a use that would allow for an asphalt or concrete batching plant. Right now, that is not the contemplated use, but that could change based on any tenant interest that we do get on the site. Purpose of today's meeting is to gather information both from council and the public in terms of the idea of accepting such a use in this area, and we will take it from there and work with staff appropriately to plan depending on what ends up being the ultimate use here.
Thank you. Does that help, Councillor Johns? A little bit.
Answer my question.
Okay. Members of council, anything further? Councillor Crone, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, or Madam Acting Mayor. And I'd like to thank the applicant and everyone that came up to speak today. It's appreciated. This application has has some merits and it has some challenges. I like the development charges that it would yield. That's 22 million is about a quarter of a health and active living plaza, so it's substantial. The annual commercial tax revenue is significant. There are challenges, though. One of our residents mentioned about concerns around their foundations and wells. I believe when we did the Loblaws Distribution Center that accommodations were made and well and foundation monitoring was provided. And I would hope that would be extended to the neighbors of this proposal as well. Do we know if, just as a side note on the Loblaws Center, have we followed up on, done regular visits to those monitoring stations, or is it all remote?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Crone, I am not intimately involved with the ongoing monitoring of the wells and the foundation assessments. However, as done in that project, baseline well and foundation assessments will be done for all residential homes within a zone of influence of construction for this proposed area that we're discussing today. We would do, just like as a Loblaws facility was, it would be ongoing monitoring. If some issue erupted from either the well or the foundation side, we would immediately take any recourse and share that information with staff, as we've done in the past with the Loblaw facility.
Okay, thank you. Any updates you could provide would be appreciated. Through you, Acting Mayor, the other concerns we have, this is going to increase traffic on Woodbine, and it's not necessarily a question for you, the applicant, but this is probably something more directed to the region. Are we going to have to be looking at expanding or widening Woodbine Avenue at some point if we're going to be developing it further with economic opportunities like this? Ms. Vumbakis, would you be able to take a stab at that?
I mean, part of the application's review will engage with the region, and I think that's a question we can certainly put to them and ask them. But right now, we don't have that answer.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's, I think we need to pursue that. And through you, Madam Mayor, Madam Acting Mayor, I think traffic studies were done in preparation for this. I believe May of last year that they were done. It may be of value to do a more recent one because the distribution center, Loblaw's distribution center is open, and so traffic has changed. So if we could have, I think, the most up-to-date information, that would be great. It'd also be nice, I've had this comment from a member of the public, it would really be wonderful if we could get these traffic studies in English, because they're so hard, they're in tech speak, and not always easy to understand. The other question I had from a member of from the public was, through you, Madam Acting Mayor, are there any environmental reports that need to be conducted for this application?
We have a number of sorry, through you, Madam, we're all getting tired. We have a number of studies, but particularly with respect to the proposal to consider a concrete or asphalt batching plant, we need additional studies, which we do not have, because the concern of staff, and it's actually articulated in the secondary plan for this area, would require vibration, noise, and odor studies. And we've asked the applicant, and we're anticipating that they'll provide us with that on their next submission.
Okay, thank you, through you, Madam Acting Mayor. I'm not going to suggest until we have more information, but I know there were concerns about air quality around the Loblaw's distribution. I'm not saying it's them. We don't know yet, but there has been a change in the air quality in the area. So I certainly would want to keep an eye on that if we did approve this facility. My last comment, and I will share this with the applicant, if I think we had to do the Loblaw's distribution center again, had to do it over. One of the suggestions I would make, and you can carry this forward on the new application, the loading bays, it might make more sense to put the loading bays facing the 404 to help reduce with the noise, because I know some of the neighbors are experiencing backup alarms on trucks. I know that's provincially regulated. We can't change that, but it's a fact of life, and so it is having an impact on the neighbors. So if we could do things like that, looking at ways to, what do we learn from the Loblaw's distribution center? What can we do to make this place better? I think that would be well received, and so that the impact is minimized to the neighbors. Thank you, Madam Acting Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Foster, go ahead, please. Try again.
Now I do. Thank you. Everything that we've heard here tonight is the stuff that popped up at me when I read this report. The odor, the noise, traffic, all that kind of stuff. So I would be looking forward certainly for that information to come as we move along through this. The other thing that I thought of is that, you know, I don't think I can stress enough that everybody comes back to the table here between the two residential homeowners that have the thoughts of the issues, and they sound, you know, good to me. So I think everybody needs to get back to the table and try to work out a compromise and get that one figured out somehow. I'm not sure what the answer is there. The other thing that jumped out at me was I worked near an asphalt plant a few years ago, and there was a fair bit of odor. The steam that comes out of the thing you could see from 8 to 10 miles away. I wondered about having that on the side of the 404. We all talk about distracted driving. I mean, I'm not saying that that column of steam is going to cause accidents, but is that an issue? So again, that stuff I would look forward to seeing in future reports. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Carruthers, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I'm listening to residents, and your comments about would you like to live next to this resonate with me. I live on a rural property as well, and no, I would not want to live next to this. Reading the report and hearing, oh, it's only one story, I'm thinking, oh, okay, and it's stuff that we need if we're building highways and hospitals. But then hearing that, no, it's going to be higher if there is concrete or asphalt, that there's towers that are going to go in, and the steam and the vibration and everything else. I'm not sure this is a good fit for this location, to be quite honest with you. I appreciate that you added in road ecology based on my comments of their last application, but frankly, it's so minimal, it's almost insulting. That road crossing signs, minimizing artificial light near natural features, reducing salt. That's not really road ecology. Road ecology is when you put the tunnels underneath so the animals can cross the road. These are just bare minimums that I would think would happen normally. So I'm not impressed with this project, and I'm not sure it's a good fit for where it is, and I support the residents' comments on this, and that's all I have to say, really.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Leahy, did you have anything that you would like to add to the conversation this evening?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, members of the public, there's further questions. So, Ms. Taya, would you just step aside for a moment, please, so we can have a bit more public feedback?
Sorry, I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted to reiterate, thank you, Ms. Carruthers, because you basically reiterated what I've been thinking. As I stated, the amount of truckloads based on the report are way less than what they're going to be, and they explain that the concrete and asphalt is something that they may add later. This is not something we want that close to the new developments going in. I've been at these concrete and asphalt sites dozens and dozens of times over the last 30 years. The amount of trucking is probably going to be 900 loads a day. That's my opinion, prove me wrong. But the application coming in is basically stating that we're going to come forward later with the concrete and the asphalt. And as stated, the amount of fumes and that's going to be coming off the asphalt, if they're doing any concrete crushing, if they're accepting concrete for recycling, the dust, it's impossible to completely control. So I think this needs to go back to the drawing board. Full information needs to come forward before you guys can make a proper decision. And for the residents that live close by, this is not fair. They're not going to be able to live there. You really need to go visit, like Mr. Foster mentioned, go to a concrete facility, go to an asphalt facility, and see if that's fair for the residents. And the employment, the amount of money that it can bring in, fantastic, but can we move it somewhere else where we're not so close to developments? Now, obviously, they want to be at this location because it's right off the 404. So all your road construction, housing construction, recycling, trucking costs go way down, but we're going to pay for the trucking costs.
just, I'd like to see this come back to the drawing board with full traffic control plans, studies, because like I said, trust me, it's going to be 900 loads, not 157.
Thank you. Thank you. There's someone else who'd like to speak. Sir, have you signed in at the back, just out of curiosity? I did. You did, okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'll sign in when I get through.
Sure.
I live in a neighborhood where, as Councillor Johns mentioned earlier, regarding Green Earth, the change, the traffic flow, the trucking up and down, it'll change the community completely. Well, I live in an area very much similar to that. I see between 100 and 150 dump trucks, trailers, every Monday to Friday. They're supposed to start at 7 in the morning. Well, how do dump trucks go at 3:30 in the morning? Because it's a regional road. They can travel 24/7 on it. So even though the contract says 7 to 5, that doesn't mean that's going to stop them. Now, 3:30, 5:30 in the morning, if you have kids, try sleeping. You want pollution? Try smelling diesel. You want speed? 60 kilometers doesn't sound very fast, but in a residential area, it's fast. When you talk 24/7, I feel for these people. I really, really do. None of you live beside something like that. None of you have the idea what it would be like. I do. I have a small portion of what it feels like. But you people are going to make a decision. And what I heard tonight, yeah, there's a lot of money. And I believe the Rice Group is trying to help our community. But like one counselor said, maybe this isn't the right place for it. Maybe we need to put it in another place where it doesn't affect people, it doesn't affect children, it doesn't affect communities. Because we talk about all the traffic, the trailer loads and the smell and the noise and the vibration. What we're not talking about is, what about the regular commuters that are going to be coming down from Georgina? What about the regular commuters that are going to be coming across the 404? What about the people who are going to go to the hospital, who have to go through that area, smell the odor? I go by Woodbine, off of Green Lane and Woodbine. And there's not, and I do this on a regular basis. If I don't go once a day, maybe every other day, I'll travel through that intersection. Do you know how many trucks I see there? More than you can imagine. It's easy for us to sit here and say, yes, we can do this, yes, we can't do this. But these folks, they're going to have to live with it. I live with it, but I accepted it. But they have no idea what's coming their way. So, council, please try and understand their position. Maybe the Rice Group, which is a good group, they bring a lot of economic certainty, they bring revenues to this town. They're a good advocate for employment and for revenues for the town. Maybe there is a better place to put the site. That's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder to sign in at the back. Is there anyone else tonight who would like to speak? I just, from my perspective, I actually was reminded of what it actually said in the 404 secondary plan, which was that this area would be a high-quality, comprehensively planned employment area. And for me, I see that as those buildings and not an impactful, environmentally sensitive use adjacent to EP lands. And I know there's another concrete batching plant in a municipality to the south that's adjacent to to a river, to a creek. And despite their very, very best efforts, there have been at least 2 incidents of runoff into that watershed, into the Holland River watershed. And I hesitate to approve something that is adjacent to EP lands, that is environmentally sensitive, that no matter how good your protections and your intentions are, there is a risk, and I don't think that that risk is one that's worth taking in this location. So for me, I understand that this is part of the secondary plan for employment lands. We want that diversity of construction. We want the employment lands. It doesn't sound to me like we have very much support for the concrete batching plant, though. So with that, Ms. Vumbakis, by all means.
Thank you. We're hearing loud and clear from the community the concerns about asphalt and concrete batching. But I just want to highlight that the application is to take the lands from rural to employment use. The additional uses are the concrete and asphalt. So I would just ask the public, if you write in any comments, that you keep that in your perspective, because I heard loud and clear, and I'm sure the applicant, and I know council did, the concern about asphalt and concrete. But that's only a portion of what's being asked. It's employment uses. So, you know, the 3 buildings that were shown, it would be beneficial if you wrote in to provide commentary with respect to that, because you know, the applicant may go away after today and decide we're removing that. And I would not want council or the public not to have had an opportunity to comment on the employment generally.
Thank you, Ms. Vumbakis. For me, it was, my understanding was that it was 3 one-story industrial buildings. We heard tonight that it might be as high as 4, but that it was 631 parking spots and 122 loading bays. And so for me, I was like, okay, how do you make 943 jobs out of those 631 parking spots? But that was math for another time, as far as I was concerned, because we were worried about the additional application for an additional use there that would be an exception to the M2 zone. Okay, seeing no other comments, I want to thank Ms. Johnson and Mr. Neal for their comments, as well as the other members of the public who came to speak. May I have a motion from council? I need, we've got a resolution, be it resolved that the memorandum regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 19350 Woodbine Avenue and the public meeting be received, that the presentation from the applicant be received, and thank you, Ms. Thaya, for your answers this evening, and that comments received at the statutory public planning meeting be addressed by the Development Services Planning Branch in a comprehensive report to a future council meeting date. May I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Johns and Councillor Foster. Yeah, Councillor Leahy, sorry, Councillor Crothers, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to reiterate that we are only receiving these. This is not any sort of approval. Just so people who aren't familiar with the process, when we put up our hands, it's just to receive the report. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Councillor Crothers. So I've got a mover and a seconder, Madam Clerk, correct? Okay. All those in favor? And that is in favor of receiving the information that we've had this evening. So that is the end of the statutory public meeting for this file. The next item on our agenda is item J, which is correspondence. I don't see any here on the agenda. Same thing with item K, there are no reports. And under item L, there are no resolutions, unless I'm told otherwise. Nope. Okay, so we're down to bylaws. We have 3 bylaws, one being a bylaw to amend the administrative penalty system bylaw, another being a bylaw to provide for the levy and collection of taxes required for the town of East Gwillimbury for the year of 2026, and to provide for the delivery of notices demanding payment of taxes. And thirdly, bylaw 2026-061 being a bylaw to declare lands as surplus and authorize the stop, up, close, and sale to ATC Cap Investment Limited, which is the Jeffrey Crescent item. And I'm hoping we can do all of those at once.
Madam Acting Mayor, we've lost one of our councillors here.
Okay.
I'm wondering if we pause.
We still have quorum.
Okay, just wanted to point that out.
That's okay, but thank you for letting me know. But we still have quorum, so we can proceed. May I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Leahy and seconded by Councillor Carruthers. All those in favor? And that motion carries. Oh, it was already in the resolution that all 3 of them were being done. It's just on the next page. My apologies. Okay, item N is other business. Is there any other business? Item O is a confirming bylaw. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Crone. You guys okay with that? And that is a confirming bylaw. All those in favor? That motion carries. I may have an adjournment moved by Councillor Crone and seconded by Councillor Leahy. Be it resolved that the meeting of council adjourn at 9:12 p.m. All those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you very much.